10 Jahren wurde zum ersten.
Well, he's biding his time at the moment as the field here getting towards, well, we've started on the cobbles, but not really the rough part yet to come. I'm joined in the commentary box today, and thanks for Graham Jones sitting at the last minute. We'll update you in just a moment about what's happening here at the course, but I think those you back there at home would like to join me in wishing get well soon to Sean Kelly. Sean was due to join me in the commentary box, and unfortunately he has got the flu, the stinking flu. We had enormous amount of troubles to get somebody to come in, and thank goodness Graham Jones, who knows all about bike racing at this level, has joined me on this occasion, and we're here therefore for the Roubaix 104th edition of this race, covering 259 kilometres, 160 miles in all as they go to the feeding station right now. So Sean, we wish you the best of luck getting back into full fitness, and of course sorry unfortunately to the readers who are reading in the Daily Telegraph all about Sean Kelly in the newspaper yesterday, no, Friday wasn't it, a big write-up about Sean, big picture about him working for Eurosport in this Roubaix. So he's not with us today, unfortunately, but Graham Jones is with me right now. Graham, welcome to the hot seat, by the way. Thank you for stepping in at the last moment. And you've been looking about what's happening so far. So before we chat about things in general, perhaps you'd like to, in particular, tell us what's happening right now.
Well, David, it's been a typical Paris-Roubaix. Usually the Paris-Roubaix, everybody wants to get in that early break, and today's been no exception. We had a very fast start to the race. 47 kilometres covered in the first hour, despite the weather predicting a northwesterly wind, which should be slightly ahead coming from the left for these riders. But we've had several attacks. Nothing really went away until after 61 kilometres. And then we had 4 riders go clear. Jost Postuma of Rabobank, 107, Nicolas Portal of Caisse d'Epargne, Stefan Schreck of T-Mobile, and Dmitry Konishev of LPR. These riders quickly just established a lead of 20 seconds, and then there was no real reaction from the peloton. This group steadily went away and built up the lead until we entered the first section of Pavé. We did have a chasing group of 3 riders: Rigetto of Liquigas, Berges of AG2R, and Floris of Euskaltel. Those riders are currently in between the 4 leaders in the peloton. They're at 2 minutes 35, and the peloton now is at 4 minutes and 10 seconds. We've just already gone through the first 3 sections of Pavé. I think we're already on the 24 sections of Pavé to go as Saint-Python.
Thank you for that then, Graham. And just to put you in the picture, those of you who are not following the cycling field, and this is where the young man alongside me has got a blush. He's been around a long time now. In fact, he won the Grand Prix de France as an amateur, the Grand Prix des Nations as an amateur, finished 2nd in the Het Volk, was 20th in the Tour de France. So we've got a lot of expertise from Graham Jones here alongside me, looking at covering the race today. And certainly Graham also is very much involved in the Tour of Britain, and when these things settle down and you begin to get a sort of flavour of the race, and also we'll repeat it later on during the programme, we'll hear from Graham about what's happening in the Tour of Britain, how far it's got, and what's going to happen with it this year. And of course he was also out there in the early part of the season. He'd been working for many years on the Tour Langkawi, and he was one of the Foreign Legion, as Rupert Guinness wrote in his book, when Rupert wrote about those riders who used to ride for the ACCB, which is a very famous French amateur team, people like Paul Sherwin, Sean Yates, Robert Miller, Stephen Roche, Phil Anderson, Alan Piper, and of course Graham Jones. All were there as the Foreign Legion who went across and battled it out with the French on their own soil. And they were the new range of riders that went over there. Do bear in mind, of course, before that we'd had people like Greg LeMond, and of course the great Sean Kelly, who was not an ACBB member, and way back in time too, Shea Elliott, who went across, and even further back, Sir Hubert Opperman, Barry Hoban, Brian Robinson, Tom Simpson, et al. So we've got experts thick and fast, and still again, best wishes go to Sean Kelly, who's in his sick bed right now, and we wish you well, Sean, and he'll be back in action. I think it's the Flesh Below on Wednesday week that Sean is due to work with David Harmon, and then on Sunday, in 2 weeks' time, he's going to be doing the Liège-Bastogne-Liège with David Harmon yet again. I'll be back on air this coming week on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday it is, for the track championships out of Bordeaux, and look forward to accompany them when the Brits yet again, I think, will be carrying the flag and look like getting a few gold medals. So back with the race, and Graham, it looks, you were giving the information there about this enormous gap back to the main field. would you look upon this as a normal thing that happens on a race like this?
Yes, it's very often the case. It's not so much about these teams getting in front and showing the jersey off to the TV, off to the world. It's more about teams like to have riders in front that can possibly give them a hand later on when the real action starts. This is actually quite a small lead. We've often had much bigger gaps with groups going into the first section of Roubaix. So 4 minutes at the moment to the peloton with this chasing group of 4 in between.
It's an event, Graham, excuse my ignorance, by the way, dear viewers back at home. It's been hell on wheels since Sean Kelly phoned in sick on Friday to sort things out. Did you ever ride it?
I actually rode it about 6 times.
God, oh God, Sackler. Oh, Duffels in his usual dark corner with dunce on his head. Go on, Graham.
But unfortunately, being a bit of a 10-stone weakling and more suited to the hillier races, I was there to help out most of the other riders, and unfortunately never usually finished. But I did get round one year. I was determined to finish whatever.
You actually got to the stadium, did you?
I did, yeah. I don't know, it was quite a few minutes down, but I'd usually done my work. My main work's to get people to those first sections of Roubaix, or even try and stay there as long as you could, really. Majority of the time by the third, fourth section, I'd already given a wheel to a teammate.
You hoped. Well, no, they're on the first second. Well, not. We've gone for a few seconds of Roubaix right now, then, Graham. And just explain then why you'll be doing that, because a lot of people. This is the one race where you get lots of people. It's a bit like the Grand National. Oh, excuse me, Graham. Before we ask you about the Grand National, I have again committed a great sin. I did not rush down to the bookies and put some money on the Grand National, because normally, like many of us do, I mean, we all vote. With our money rather than our hearts and our heads with the Grand National, and put a few bob out there. And I looked down the riders in the Grand National, and this is a bit like Grand National racing over the cobbles here, because every so often they hit the cobbles and people puncture and crash and fall off, a bit like going over the jumps in the Grand National. So like many of the Brits, I usually nip down the bookies, but after the hell on wheels, sorting things out on Friday when Sean was sick, and then rearranging all the travel arrangements, sorting things out, it was just unbelievable. Didn't manage to get down the bookies, and I'd picked up on my list 4 horses on which I was likely to put just a few bob. Not very much, but just a few bob. And one of them was the Roubaix Miguel, the King Miguel, because 100 to 1, Miguel Indurain. I thought that's a good punt, 100 to 1. Didn't get round to doing it. I don't know where the poor horse got to, but that was one of the horses which I thought was jolly interesting punt at 100 to 1, Leroy Miguel. Other one was Bally Cassidy. Well, Cassidy is the name of a very famous Irish cyclist, and also I called my cat Cassidy some years ago, 66 to 1. Didn't put money on that either. And also the one I selected was number 6 Valverde at 12 to 1. Because Valverde, as you all know, is a very famous cyclist. One stage in the Tour de France, 2 stages in the Tour of Spain, and so on. And I thought, number 6 Valverde, that's worth a punt, just because his name is Valverde. And the other one was going to be Nil Desperandum. Well, I thought that would be it, you know, not a hope, but Nil Desperandum. And I thought, well, I might as well put that down as a long one anyway. As you know, Nil Desperandum finished 4th, and guess who finished 1st? Yes, number 6 Valverde. So any of you cyclists out there who went after Valverde, no doubt you'll be celebrating in a suitable fashion later on either last night or tonight. Right, there we are on the screen. It's all there at the moment. You can see the little gap and the dust and what have you. Talk us about the dust and the grass. Did you, when you rode all those years, was it wet or was it dusty?
I've ridden it in all sorts of conditions, really, dry, wet, and they all have their different difficulties on the day.
Well, we'll come back in just a moment, because they're going to put an advertisement break up on our screen. We'll keep watching the scene, by the way, and all the commentators ranged round the finishing straight at Roubaix, where that lovely track awaits them. The smooth surface of the cycle race track around the outskirts of the football pitch is waiting these riders, but they've got a long way to go, yet a while, and we'll keep watching the pics and come back to you after this.
The Gold Rush of 2006. 260 men and women from 34 nations. Welcome to the Velodrome. The Track Cycling World Championships from Bordeaux, from Thursday at 1800, live on Eurosport.
can't read this. Can you read this?
I can't read this.
What's wrong with this?
It's in black and white.
Black and white's what's wrong with this?
Should be in color.
That is better. How'd you do that?
Xerox Color. It makes business sense.
Du kannst mich am Arsch lecken. Ja, du kannst mich auch mal am Arsch lecken. Du kannst mich ganz viermal am Arsch lecken. Immer zweimal mehr wie du.
Eurosport präsentiert die bösen Tassen im Sparabo. Sende Euro 11 für das Handybild. Euro 12 für den Real Sound.
Du kannst mich am Arsch lecken.
Oder Euro 13 für das Video. An 5 mal die 3.
In terms of footballing entertainment, the French Cup rarely lets you down, with goals by the hatful and results that turn the form book upside down. The major teams of the French League will be there for the quarterfinals of the French Cup, Tuesday at 18:15 and 2100, and Wednesday at 1800, live on Eurosport.
Welcome back, and most of the peloton cruising along here. I think that's the word. If you can sit on your bike for 160 miles, the early part of it is on reasonable straight roads. In fact, they come out from Compiègne, which of course is where the armistice was signed after the great 14-18 war. Well, no armistice when they get to the back end of this race. The last couple of hours is like hell on wheels. They call it hell on north, by the way, and it was not because of the conditions for bike racing, but in fact it was when they first came through here after that 14-18 war. One of the journalists called it the hell of the north, not because of the actual racing and what they were doing on their bikes, but they went through, there were stunted trees that had been blasted by the big shells coming down, there were the trenches, there were the great areas where the soldiers had been in the trenches, and also line after line after line of the cemeteries where the soldiers lay dead. So they called it hell of the north on that occasion. It was unbelievably bad. If you look at some of the pictures way back in the 14-18 war, imagine when they came through that part of the world on their bikes straight after the war. That's what they call the hell of the north. Other people think it's to do with the actual conditions of the race. Well, yes, you could say that. The rough stuff does lie yet ahead. So the main field not too bothered at the moment. You can see many of the blue and white jerseys on the front, the quick step team trying to keep this in order for Tom Bonan, and as ever we try and get one or two riders who've got to try and leap across the gap towards our leaders, and so yes, beginning I think to warm itself up, but certainly the big one. Oh, on earth did he? That was the most unusual. Come on, Graham, you were watching. I was looking down my note. What on earth happened there? We'll see an action replay, but that's at this stage of the race on the smooth roads, mate.
I don't know. It looked quite extraordinary. I only caught that in the corner of my eye. I was actually looking at the time gaps at that time, but I'm sure we'll see it again soon.
Yeah, well. We're watching it now. He looks over his shoulder, and then
he looked over his shoulder, didn't realise that the rider in front had moved off his line, and he's just touched the rear wheel of the rider in front.
That happens, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's just purely lack of concentration, and it's one of those things, really. But it does seem a bit silly to do it right just in front of the peloton. Could have been quite catastrophic.
Cameras as well. Oh, there'll be egg on face, though. It doesn't look like he's badly hurt. The other big thing, of course, is his bike didn't bounce out into the midst of the main peloton and knock down other bike riders. This is one of the problems, isn't it, when something like that happens? It's not what happens to that guy, what happens to people behind.
Yeah, it's fortunate. He was probably about 30 or 40 metres in front of the peloton, so they had time to react, but any closer, and there could have been a few down.
Well, that's often happens and takes out some of the top guys as well, so it's certainly passed without much. I bet the guy's picking himself up now. He's not got an egg on his face. He's probably got lots of cuts and bruises, and he'll be getting back on his bike. I don't think he was badly hurt. His bike was probably a bit bent and battered, but he was back on his bike. They're not going too quick, so he could well get back in the action yet again. So that was a little comeuppance, which just shows you, even on the smooth roads, that problems can befall the best of bike riders. These guys are all top pros. They've spent a long time coming through the amateur ranks to get to this level. They've got themselves a contract with one of the big teams. And by the way, all the big brouhaha that's going on, David Harmon was telling you during his coverage of the Basque Country how they're trying to shuttle the Pro Tour series now, where there are 20 teams who are locked in for 3 or 4 years. They're trying to go down to a system where there are 18 teams, and there'll be a way in which teams can be elevated or relegated. Well, we have in fact got on this particular occasion 25 teams taking part. All the 20 teams from the Pro Tour are involved, and we've got 5 other teams because the Tour de France organisers who organise this race, in their wisdom, have decided to put in some extra rides. So we've got 5 teams at the back end, and they're teams like Unibet.com, the Team LPR, the Lambo Credit Colnago team, and the team of Skills Shimano and Agri Chibul, who are going to be moving up into that top echelon anyway. So there we are. We've got 5 wildcard teams. You can see on your screen what the gaps are back to the riders here, working their way over this next section of cobbles. And well, they seem to, every so often, I've been told by our people back in Paris, by the way, that we're going to have some statistics coming up. So I've rabbited on for just a bit. We'll come back with more information about the race and what have you. Sorry if you're losing pictures, by the way. It looks a bit grotty at the moment. Don't, whatever you do, press the buttons. Oh, there we are. That's the finish. And they're going to come into this track in about another, 3.5 hours, 4 hours time. Welcome relief after cobbles. Well, there we are. We're going to look at some of the rides that have gone away in the early breakaways, and you can see some interesting names down there. And there we are. So way back since 2000. And Brad Camasso, Nason, Tom Bonan, Pierre and Tom Steels. Well, those are the guys, and it does show that when they went off, how soon they went off from the start. And well, it's very seldom that you actually, when going in toward the back end, you manage to stay out there. But the situation there, they've shown us a nice little track where they're going to finish at the end of the stage today. And right now, gathering around the outside, there are very few people actually in the stadium. It's a very drafty place. Thank goodness today is warm weather, because this is the stadium where I lost my voice a few years ago. Who said thank goodness for that, when the wind came straight across the track into the commentary point, which in fact I call it the biggest concrete fridge in the world for us commentators. The wind comes straight across the track, and up there, you had a brief look at it, by the way, calm photograph taken long before the race actually gets in there, where the wind comes across the track, and around the outskirts, outside, there is on the far side an enormous great big screen. The pictures you're seeing here are beamed up on this enormous big screen, so that people can also, those who eventually get into the track centre, can see what's happening. There's an amateur race as well, the amateur version of the Paris-Roubaix, which is a shortened version, by the way. They'll also be coming into the track centre. We won't be seeing that on television, but they will just come through there. And of course, the Brits have done rather well in that one as well in years gone by. And I think it was Grant Thomas did a jolly good ride. And another guy whose name escapes me at the moment, I think they were first and third when they came in. Was it last year or the year before? The old grey cells have gone on the blink right now, but certainly the track awaits these riders. Welcome relief. And look at the state of that road. Here we are, the grass down the centre. And this to me, and I'd like Graham Jones's input on this, Graham, because I know I'm besotted by this, the state like this. It's not real bike racing, but to me it is. That's where bike racing started. What do you think?
Definitely, this is my favourite race of the year, along with the Tour of Flanders, apart from Tour de France, which is always at top of my list. But this race is just, it's got everything. And one of the things which a lot of people don't realise about Paris-Roubaix is a lot of these sections of pavé are not that flat. There's a lot of slight downhills, there's a lot of false flats, which really makes things going, really hard. But we're fortunate today. We're seeing it very, very dry. I did actually think we'd probably see a few muddy patches, but there is showers forecast later on, so we could still have a few slippy points on it.
What happens when it does chuck it down? What's different riding the cobbles than we're seeing now with the dust flying? What's different? What do the riders, do you have to say, well, let's ride it differently than they're riding now, or do you just still ride the same way and hope you don't fall off?
No, well, there is a different way. When it's wet, you've got to ride either right in the gutter, or you've got to ride in the middle, which is sort of like the apex of the road, the highest part. Otherwise, you're riding on a slight slope, if you like. In the dry, you can still afford to get away with that section, so you've got more of the pavé to ride on, more to choose. But in the wet, it's a different matter. One thing about when it is raining heavily, when it's actually raining on the day, it does make the cobbles a little less slippy than if it's been raining the few days before. That's the worst scenario, is when it's been raining for all week. It doesn't actually rain on the day, but the pavé just gets covered in mud and puddles and everything, and you don't watch under those puddles a lot of the time.
That's the point, isn't it? 'Cause the other thing that I've noticed while looking at some of the photographs and, of the race over those years gone by, that I remember a famous picture of Sean Kelly coming round on the cobble on the outskirts of a puddle, and he went round it, and I thought, why not cut the corner? I suppose wise guy he was, he thought down there could be either a rock or a hole about 6 inches deep.
That's right. That's the thing with heavy rain. I mean, just going back to, you mentioned Tour of Langkawi earlier, we actually had to postpone the last stage of the Tour of Langkawi this year because of heavy rain. Not the fact that it was cold, but it just got so covered in water that literally you don't know what grids under that puddle or anything. So it is. You've got to avoid those puddles on the pavé.
That's the last stage in Kuala Lumpur, isn't it? The whizzing around there. I'm sorry I wasn't with you this year. After what, 7-8 years I've been out there, but I threw a bit of a wobbly and couldn't make it this year. But certainly yes. And when it rains there, it doesn't half rain, doesn't it?
It did. It was dry at the start, and within 20 minutes it was up to the hubs.
So, while the ride steady, we'll come back to Tour of Langkawi in just a moment. Let's people switching on a bit late, Graham. So, if you'd like to update us on who these guys are, in fact, we're going to commercial break. So, hang on in there and nip out and make yourself a cup of tea quickly, whatever the case may be. I'll take the dog for a walk around the block, but do come back because we're going to take a short break. I shouldn't say that because the advertiser will say, David, you shouldn't do that because this is how you, Eurosport, make your money selling us advertising space. So, anyway, do what you're going to do. Maybe, I hope, watch the TV then and buy the products. I don't know. We're going to come back after this and more from Graham Jones, who's sitting in the commentary point with me, David Duffield. Please don't go away.
The ultimate sporting adventure. Teams of super fit athletes grappling with punishing challenges in some of the planet's most awesome wilderness. 4 fabulous competitions on 3 different continents for a place in Raid World Championship. Cross Adventure, the Raid World Cup, Wednesday at 22:45 on Eurosport.
Saab and Solomon present Cross Adventure, the Raid World Cup in Western Australia.
Can't read this. Can you read this?
I can't read this.
What's wrong with this?
It's in black and white.
Black and white's what's wrong with this?
Should be in color.
That is better. How'd you do that?
Xerox Color. It makes business sense.
What do you want? How do you steal from a virtual bank?
You can hack into these servers
with security that's virtually unbreakable.
You find me a way in. If you don't do what I ask, I will kill you and your children. Change your plan.
Harrison Ford, Paul Bettany, Firewall.
Enter a new era with 3D. Dassault Systems. See what you mean.
Welcome back then to coverage of the Paris-Roubaix. Things been a bit breathless at the start of the coverage on Eurosport. Do bear with us, those who've been here since the very opening of the programme, and also those who are going to sit it out from when we've been on air right the way through to the finish. Again, do bear with us if we repeat some of the things we've been talking about and updating viewers who come in later on, because do bear in mind it's Sunday, a lot of bike riders out there. Glorious day, I think, in the UK when they're out on their bikes. They'll come back to either watch the live coverage of the last hour and a half, or maybe record it and whiz it forward, so they miss all the little gems, I suppose I can use that word, that are going to be on air during the coverage of the live programme. But so bear with us if those of you who are going to sit there with your nice big cups of tea or something a bit stronger maybe, Sunday afternoon, nowhere to go in terms of driving your motor car, just enjoying yourself on a lovely afternoon on this, what I think is the greatest bike race in the world. The Paris-Roubaix, 104th edition, 259 kilometres, 160 miles in all, and so Graham Jones here with me, who's ridden this race many times in the past. Perhaps now Graham will update on what's going on. And oh, the man back in Paris has just said stand by for stat number, whatever the case may be, so that we can have some numbers up on the screen. We'll do that in a minute. These are things which make it up. Why did you do that? Why did that go on? Well, back there are people talking to us in our headphones. We get Radio 2, we get people talking to us in Paris. We get Tom, Dick and Harry getting involved as well. But you can see the breakaway group, always as ever. There's the hopefuls, and I don't think ever in my experience have we actually seen anybody go from start to finish in the Paris-Roubaix. In recent coverage that we've had on Eurosport over the last, what, 17 years, who's actually gone all the way through. I've no doubt somebody else will find classics will say, yes, guys have gone. In fact, Jackie Durand is working with our French commentators, and Jackie Durand, of course, was an infamous guy for going off down the road. As soon as the gun went, he would be down the road, and he'd be disappearing down the road, and most times he'd get caught towards the end, but Jackie Durand did from time to time manage to survive out there. Particularly, I think it was the Tour of Flanders when he finally managed to survive most of the race and get there towards the finish. And but generally speaking, races like this, the early breakaway riders get swallowed up, and you can see the Quick-Step team in the blue and white looking after the interests of Tom Bonan, who won this race last year. And of course last year he did the double. He did the Tour of Flanders on one Sunday, and the following Sunday he got the Paris-Roubaix. He had two on the trot. Be quite unique if Tom can do it again now and have two on the trot and in 2 consecutive years. But you see David and Lotto are set themselves up at the front, because Van Petegem is another man in with a shout, who, if I said he was a bit on the decline of his ability, then perhaps somebody from Belgium would give him a sharp clough around the ears. But I don't think he's quite the strong man he used to be, although he has done well in this race and many other single-day classics in the past. But certainly his team are sitting up there at the front at the moment. The gap then 250 back, and the peloton at 3:35. So you can see all on the screen right now. The spectators have turned out in great numbers, as they always do for the Paris-Roubaix, and with the course zigzagging a bit. It's not a straight line from Compiègne, it doesn't start in Paris, but up to Roubaix, zigzags backwards and forwards, and you'll see more and more spectators turning up on the sides of the road, who you might have seen further down the road as well, as they leap in their coaches and cars and zigzag backwards and forwards to watch this race unfold before your very eyes. Interesting again to see that one of the Liquigas riders is in that breakaway group at the moment, and Magnus Backstedt will no doubt be elated about that, commentating for the Swedish output of Eurosport. And I think David Harmon had told you also how you can get on the website as well and pick it up and watch it on one of our Eurosport.com. You can actually see the picture in the top left-hand corner, I think it is. I don't know if you'll put up with us in our commentary, but certainly we're going now to let you know the sort of nations that are at the start today. As you can see, we rise there, we've got a mixed bag in the breakaway group. In fact, then, as pretty well normally starting out today, we had 41 riders from France on the start list there. Belgium again 24. Spain, well, I think the Spanish riders, more of this from Graham Jones when we looked at this a lot, Graham, is I think as far as riders, I've got an Escudel rider here on your screen. It's normally, as far as I'm concerned, I see the Spaniards, with one or two exceptions, they usually climb off at the first feed station, but they sent 24 riders this time because they part the Pro Tour, so they have to ride. The Italians have got 23. Germany, well, it's a very strong nation, 18. Netherlands up there as well. So before we come back on these riders here, Graham, the poor Spaniards, they all seem to be on the Paris-Roubaix as a chopping block for them.
Yeah, it is very much the case. I can remember when I was racing, Spanish riders very rarely ventured anywhere north of Paris, and certainly I think the only time they did venture north of Paris was if it was the Tour de France went in the north. And to a certain extent, going back that time, even the Italians very rarely ventured to Belgium and Holland. They didn't sort of like the cold weather, the roads, the cobbles. But now with the Pro Tour, they have to ride these events. But funnily enough, you talk about the Spanish there. I wouldn't mind betting that that's halved by the time they get to the feed zone.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're all climbing off, aren't they? I remember going, cause I haven't ridden with him, I've just seen him, and you're only sort of endorsing what I said. I remember going to things like Tour of Flanders and so on, and you'd see the Spanish would send the minimum number of riders. If they had to have 8, they would 6 out of 8. Only 6 would be on the start list, and you'd see them in the team cars sitting in there all huddled up, and you look down the list of the names and I don't know these guys. So the team would virtually send out anybody who they could sort of plunder from the, once the amateur race, but the lower end of the team selection. They were sent out there to the chopping block. But of course they do have some good riders as well. We've got young Fletcher, for instance. Well, he's in with a shout today. There's one guy, Fletcher, who really likes riding up this part of the world. That's not a true sort of Spanish guy, is it, by any means? But Fletcher likes riding up here.
Fletcher has really come on this last 2 or 3 years, has really made a sort of career out of one-day races. We first came to prominence in the Tour with his stage victory in Toulouse and his various sort of, always an attacking rider, always in the breaks, but this last year or two he's really been prominent in the one-day classics.
And of course riding for Rabobank now, that must change things, mustn't it? If you've got a, you know, coming up in now and getting a country or a nation or a sponsor that is interested in one-day races.
Well, that's right, and also you would expect that he would improve himself being amongst a nation or a team that rides this type of races all the time, so he probably will actually be racing in this part of the world more than he would have done if he'd have been riding for a Spanish team.
Well, he's riding right now, and he's riding on these cobbles. Just tell the dear viewers back at home, Graham, what's it like bouncing over these cobbles?
In my case, pretty difficult actually, but it's one of those things. You're either good at it or you're not. I mean, we all have to ride them at certain periods in our career. I mean, even in the Tour of France in the past we've had stages over the cobbles, but it's just a case of keeping on top of that gear and keeping that rhythm, not trying to lose your speed, and just trying to find, there's a lot of concentration just trying to find the best line. You see even these riders here, some of them prefer to try and ride on the hard ground at the side, and some prefer to stay on the cobbles in the middle. In fact, Konishev's just losing contact there. He's probably caught a bad section of the path at the side.
I'm going to look in the book of words. I think that probably this guy Konishev is probably one of the oldest guys in the race. He's been around a few years now, hasn't he?
He must be about 38, I would think. Konishev, he has been around a long time.
And he's certainly got the experience of riding a bit, but he seemed to be in a bit of a trouble then. Nice to see him still in action, and he's finding his way back up again. But do you alter the position? Do you sit further back and put the bars up?
I never did, but I'm sure riders do alter the position very slightly. Maybe they'll raise the bars a little bit, but I think generally you're racing in pretty much the same position all year round.
And there has been a big flood. I know when I first started, you were riding in those days when they all had what I call the standard same bikes virtually, and in fact I spoke to one of the mechanics in the Rabobank team some years ago, and I said, what speciality have you made now to make this bike different? He said, I put 2 levels of handlebar tape on the handlebars. He put 2 levels on there. That's all he did. But we went through a period when everybody was trying out suspension systems.
There was a period, yes, a few years ago where there's people were trying suspension front forks, and I've actually seen, I think, the Trek bikes today for Discovery have got a rear suspension.
Yes, because that's where you get the bashing up in your bum, and so they put a little, they had it last year as well, little sort of elastomer device in the back end. There we are, 21 it says up there, by the way, 21 today. Who's got the key of the door? Well, these guys, the key of the door at the moment is certainly not with our breakaway group on the front. Look at the state here. Our camera are beginning to give you the whole feel of the Paris-Roubaix. The camera's gone down. These are the cobbles. The dust is flying. They're bouncing over. Our breakaway group is down the road. We've been rabbiting on those, been watching our whole programme so far about what is going. And there you see on the screen the breakaway group, where they are, and the chase group. So Graham Jones, again, who's ridden this race 6 times in the past, will he's in the middle of making his notes, but perhaps you'd like to update us, Graham, on who's in that breakaway group down the road, and they're chasing them now.
Yeah, we've still got the 4 leaders, Postuma of Rabobank, Nicolas Portal, Stefan Schreck and Dmitry Konishev, although Konishev was struggling to stay with those the other 3 riders. Chasing, we've got a group of 4 riders, Frank Hoy, Flores of Euskaltel, Rigetto of Liquigas and Stefan Berges of AG2R. At the moment they're 3 minutes and 34 seconds, or the peloton's at 3 minutes 34 seconds. Those 4 chasers at 2 minutes 50 seconds. We did have one chaser that did try to go clear of the peloton, Serpellini, but I've had no update as to whether he's still in between those 4 chasers and the peloton. Oh, it's a great shot of the peloton there.
Oh, look at that, Graham. What's it like to be in there? I mean, we're getting beautiful pictures, aren't we? I know when many people come and join us in the commentary box, they're seeing it from a different point of view. What's it like now? How do you feel looking at it from here rather than being sat in it?
Oh, it's a great atmosphere. It's probably, apart from the mountains in the Tour de France, it's the one race where spectators really do get right close to you. And it's so like, this is actually quite a quiet section of the pavé at the moment, but later on when you really get the busy section around Orchy and Arenberg, the noise is absolutely deafening. You've got people shouting in your ears sort of like a foot away from you. It's quite incredible.
Now, you were saying that you rode here to ride with other team members who had a better chance of winning the race, and you'd have to go back and forth and do so. But on other road races and big tours and so on, we see virtually common to domestiques. Now, I wouldn't use that word with you because you're a very great rider in your day on certain conditions, but if you're on this race, how can you operate by going backwards and forwards with bottles and this and that, or is it still every man for himself?
It does tend to get every man for yourself. You can help out with that sort of thing up until you hit that first section of pavé, but generally it is every man for yourself. I mean, you can't drop back to the cars. Once you hit that first section of pavé in the peloton, team car might be 2 minutes behind the last rider. It's very difficult for the cars to get past riders in any of these sections. They have to wait in between the sections of pavé, and then they can jump the little groups and gradually get up to where the leaders are. It's still very much early days. Once things settle down, then most riders tend to go back for their bottles themselves. And
with the team cars behind, I must say, what the hell are they doing out there if they can't be any help? But I know that I've seen some of the cars when they finish the race, like the sumps have been broken into. The whole car's in an absolute wrecking state with the riders. It must be very frustrating the team managers as well, who can't get up there to do something.
It is, and just funny, I was just thinking then when I'd said that I can remember, and I'm sure it's still the case, that if you're one of the team riders and you puncture, you're not the leader. You're there to give your wheel to one of the team leaders, but also you still expect to get a wheel yourself. But most of those team cars, because they don't want to lose their place in the convoy, they've got a set place in the convoy that is either drawn before the race or it's drawn on the position as team in the Pro Tour. Usually all they do is throw a wheel out at the window and you have to throw yours back. And I've seen cases where they don't, often they don't get the wheel back that you've punctured. I've even seen cases where a team manager once actually got that excited in the race, and his mechanics got out to change the wheel. He drove off without the mechanic getting back in there. He's that much wrapped up in the race. But that's a frequent occurrence, that a mechanic will just give you a wheel out the window rather than stop the car and risk losing his place in the convoy.
That's one less window, one less wheel in the team stock as well. Also, the other thing is we're going to see later on more perhaps than down here, because in the early stages I think riders can get back, Graham. But we're also going to see, in my experience here, with team mechanics further on down on the side of the road with wheels at certain sections, aren't we, on the side of the road? Do they leap round? Have they got other vehicles? How do they do that?
They do. They have they'll have a strategy amongst the team the night before, and you might have 3 or 4 spare vehicles hopping around and say, you cover that end of sector, you cover that end of sector, and they're there just to, because, like I say, the team car might be 2 minutes behind the front part of the peloton. I mean, the team car's coming out, and say, for instance, a group of 100 riders hit the Arenberg Forest. By the time they come out the other end, the team car could be a minute and a half behind the front part of that group. So they're there just as a backup, really.
Well, here we are, sector 20 at the moment. Krang, you can see it, 118 kilometres. It's a 3-star climb, 3-star section of the course as they're going through this one now. I think they're running a bit ahead schedules at the moment, according to my schedule here. It's 138 kilometres. We saw it on there, yes, as well. And this then is section 21. They count them down, by the way. We started with 27 sections. The first one was at Trouville, and that was after 98 kilometres being covered. And now here at 138 kilometres into the race. So if my arithmetic's correct, they've covered 40 kilometres, 25 miles of the cobbles here. They've gone across one of the longest sections, by the way. There was one of 3,700 metres as they came through a section there, which was after the Cuivry à Saint-Pillon. After 25th section, that was 3,700 metres of cabbé, and this one then is just 1,600 metres. And it looks, is this one that the guys at the leading group then, Graham, that's been blown back and is losing his position?
I think it is, actually, yes. I think that's Rigetto, yeah.
So that's
that chasing group of 4 had split into 2 just before this, and it looks like the peloton are approaching those other 2.
And dribs and drabs of riders all over the place.
Yeah, chasing group of 4 are split to pieces by the looks of it as the peloton's closing.
And Escudel riders, well, certainly it's not exactly their cup of tea or glass of Rioja, because they've been sent out there chopping blocks of the race and thick and fast. In fact, today number 31 drifting back on our spin run, Frank Hoy from Gerolsteiner. Well, he's a strong guy, but perhaps he went too soon to, you know, out on that group. I'd put him in there as a chap that could be in the finish. Goodness knows why he charged off to begin with, because most of the wise guys are back in the main pack at the moment. Just a rundown on some of the riders we've got in the race. As Graham will keep his eye on what's happening on the screens there. But of course, all eyes are going to be on the quick-step rider Tom Bonen in the World Championship jersey. In fact, I'll wait till he get back and get picked up, because he's wearing a strange jersey which has the World Championship bands and the Pro Tour logo all over it as well. As this looks to be like one of the riders from the team that's been blasted into here on Lambo credits. Yes, it is. And so he's been put in there hoping to show his sponsor, but he's going to get sucked back as well. So quick going down then, George Hincapie, Discovery Channel, he's a man in with a shout today probably. Peter van Petegem, Bert Roosmans, who's been going rather well at the back this year so far, could be in there at the shout as well. Interesting enough, we've got 2 sons of famous riders in the race this time. If you're looking out there for the Lambo Credit rider just coming back now, Mathieu Créquillon, the son of the great Créquillon, is also riding for Lambo Credit right now in the race. And we've also got the rider who's the son of Duke La Salle, Hervé Duke La Salle. If you spot the cover of his team and you spot number 142, then that is Duke La Salle. His father, by the way, won this Paris-Roubaix in 1992 and 1993. In fact, 1993 was the time when he virtually dead heated with Ballerini, and it took a photo finish to split it, and Ballerini sulked and said he would never race again, and he won the race, and in the end he wouldn't even speak to Gilbert, but they've become good friends since that. But that was an amazing finish then, a dead heat almost on the finishing line between Gilbert Duke La Salle and Ballerini in 1993, and his son now, Hervé Duke La Salle, is riding amongst 194 starters in the race. So he's in there somewhere. If you can have a look out for him, then just have a look at his son going through. Other interesting riders too. We got rider Hesial from the Phonak Hearing Company. He is, of course, a very great mountain bike rider, and I think mountain bike is the sort of conditions that would suit people here. That was Bert Roosmans, by the way. Disappointing for him, I think. He's been going rather well.
Yeah, he has, yeah. It's one of those things you're lucky to get through Paris-Roubaix without at least one puncher, so hopefully it won't be too much trouble for him.
Well, let's hope he gets back. But of course, when you do get a replacement or something, it's about, look, here comes the Mavic service cars with the service bike with spare wheels on it at the moment. And also, apart from that, the police, police riders, if we get a chance of picking them up, normally with all the big races, the police go in front and do all the marshalling, this, that and the other, but they actually ride off-road motorbikes, don't they?
They do, yeah. Also cross bikes, one of the neutral service in the police. Absorbs the cobbles just a little bit better, makes it a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, and they've got this sort of, they're high up in the sky, aren't they, so that they don't get bashed going over the cobbles, and they sit on these things, all the knobbly tires to get the grips. And of course, motorbikes do fall down. We've seen that many times, and we've seen also with the TV camera guys. Can you imagine a TV cameraman watching these pictures here? You think, oh, there's a TV guy. Look, behind these 2 riders, see him standing up there. He's got to stand on that motorbike. He's got to get the pictures. Then he goes down here, and he's bouncing, it's all right here, but bouncing over the cobbles. So I know that many people say this is the greatest race they like to see on television. You imagine those guys out there bringing you the pictures, the work they are doing. Here he goes, he's hanging out over the side of his motorbike. He's got the camera right up underneath the bicycles. You can see him bouncing over the cobbles here on these wheels, which, by the way, Graham, they're not what I call the normal wheels, are they?
No, they normally, they'll have probably a few more spokes just to make that wheel a bit stronger. And the main thing, the biggest difference in the wheels that they have on these is just to use the slightly fatter tyres just to absorb the rough roads.
So, battery they're going to get here. Oops! Still a problem here, as one of the riders has just...
Nicolas Portal is from the leading group.
Yep.
Here we go. On the corner.
Oof. Disappointment, but he should be able to get back. No more damage done.
Just a few scrapes there on his right thigh by the looks of it.
But would they wait for him? I mean, normally on a normal road, yes, but what about this?
That's a good question, really. It looks like he'll get back. It looks like he only lost about 100 metres there on the group. I could see the other 3 riders in the distance.
Do you think they need him? When does it change when it is every man for himself and they're going to ride off and just do their own thing?
I would think they would need him at the moment, and that may be one thing. They'll continue at a certain rhythm, but maybe not quite as hard as they were going, just till he gets back.
Yeah, it looks good, because he didn't do much damage when he fell off, did he? Just for his pride, I suppose.
No, he's probably scuffed his handlebar tape, so I don't think he'll worry too much about that.
Yeah, look at it.
He's just banging his brake lever back straight.
If he was a footballer, they'd cart him off on the stretcher, wouldn't they?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
All the drama and... Oh, dear. So many football fans have, but these bike rides are about hard stuff, and it isn't... I mean, imagine Roger Hammond's riding today. He had 10 flipping stitches in his just below his knee after the event last Sunday. 1 week later, he's got 10 stitches and he's riding today. I mean, that's stern stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it's pretty unfortunate for Roger again, because since he had that 3rd place, he's never managed to get in Paris-Roubaix 100% fit, so he's a little unlucky again.
Yeah, well, we wish him luck. He'll be watching that main group behind. Yes, he is back now. Posthuma, Porto and the other 2 guys have been waiting, and they're all sort of back in this B group. Nice, good cross-section. The orange colours here, the Roubaix team just sitting on the back. They all seem to be doing a bit of work. And arm's gone up there. That says to me that he might also have a puncture, which he's waiting for neutral service to come up, as we're going to take a short break. No time for these guys to relax. They got 6.5 hard hours in the saddle. Stay with us to see what happens after this.
World Snooker Championship from April 15th, live on Eurosport.
Enter a new era with 3D. Dassault Systems. See what you mean.
Check this out.
Check out Eurosport's brand new World Cup magazine. Get the inside stories and the latest word. All those gems of information will give you everything you need to take part completely free in the World Cup game. Become the #1 trader at wcg.eurosport.com. In the final program, the names of the big winners will be announced. The prizes: a fantastic plasma TV, a digital 5.1 speaker system, and universal remote control. World Cup magazine on Eurosport, and sign up today at wcg.eurosport.com.
Well, welcome back then. We've been on air for the thick end of 1 hour covering this, the Paris-Roubaix 104th issue of this race, which dates back to 1896. Here we go. Whoops, whilst we're off air, you can see
same corner.
Yep, same corner, but on the apex rather than the outgoing.
I can't see properly there, but I can only assume that's gravel.
Well, if you've saw it earlier on, we had one of the guys in the break come down above to tricks, and now he's back on his bike and back in that leading group. And so once again, Graham Jones has the runners and riders in our lead group who are still soldiering on, Graham.
Yeah, we've still got those 4 leaders, despite Portal's fall. The 4 leaders are still together again. But now the chasing group of 4 riders has changed. We've lost 2 of them, and we've still got Frank Hoy and Flores, but they've now been joined by an attack from the head of the peloton. That's Pronk of Unibet and Bestreppen of Lambeau Credit. So those the 4 riders have formed behind the 4 leaders, and they're at 2 minutes and 5 seconds, but the peloton is starting to close now. Peloton's down to 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
And as Graham gave you the rundown, we just quickly showed them on your screen. Well, it's good the Wodju colours, the pink colours at the front for the T-Mobile squad, who are probably hoping, I should think, that they might have Stefan Vesserman back in the frame. He's been not too well in the early part of this season. I don't know what's been wrong with him, it hasn't been too well, but they're looking upon Stefan Wesserman to do a good ride for them. They've got a full team then of Bergott, Gillim, Greiper, Klier, Schmitz, Schreck and Korf. So a good strong team from the T-Mobile. But of course the strongest teams are going to be Quick Step in the blue and white, supporting Tom Bonan and looking after his interests. But they've also brought people like Nick Noyes, who did well in the Tour of Britain. We're just getting some information to our headphones here about what's been happening at the Rise regroup. But going down the Quick Step team, Nick Noyes is in there, and Posada. Nick Noyes, Tour of Britain?
Yes, yeah, he won Tour of Britain last year.
Yeah, there you are. So,
hope he's coming back.
Are you rooting for him today?
Yeah, I always root for riders who've done well in the Tour of Britain.
What's happening with Tour of Britain?
Even Boonen.
Oh, Boonen, yeah, because he won a stage, didn't he? Okay, dear ladies and gentlemen, back there, we told you in the lead group. You've seen who's on there. Here's the chase group. Before they hit the next section of cobbles, quick words from Graham Jones about the Tour of Britain. I know you can't tell us all because still much things to be confidential, Graham, but how's it going?
It's going very well. Still one or two
dates first
things.
of all, when it is, so feel put in a diary.
29th of August to the 3rd of September. It's exactly the same week as we've had for the last 2 years, and things are going well. There's still one or two things to decide on the route, but yeah, it should be some quite new things this year, new innovations.
And you can't tell me
yet, quite exciting. I can't know, unfortunately. The launch is not until mid-May.
When's it going to be? Do you know the date for the launch in mid-May? So
I believe we've got 15th of May penciled in, but don't hold me on
15th of
that.
May. Okay. Well, I think on Eurosport, as he looking in his diary now, 15th of May, we'll try and get the information as soon as we can do. But certainly that sounds like we could be in the midst of the Tour of Italy, and in which case we will go on air and tell you as much as we can do about the Tour of Britain. Just a word that it also clashes with the Tour of Spain, and I've seen you get some quite good quality riders. How did it go, this Pro Tour thing, and then running a big race, a good race like that in Britain alongside a Pro Tour event?
It's difficult in the fact that you don't have the ability to sort of like go and get whoever you want. Probably it's not just about the Tour of Spain, it's also about other races that teams have to ride. For instance, it's very difficult to get in the French teams at that time of the year, because not only have you got Plouay that starts on the Sunday, but you've also got the Tour de l'Avenir, and this is where the Pro Tours really does make things hard on these teams now. It really stretches them right to the limit, and you know, we do our best, but we're quite happy to get 3 or 4 Pro Tour teams, and it gives other people a chance to ride as well.
It does, and of course things like Tour of Spain, some of the riders, although getting some what I call better, but it's always been to me the Tour of Spain, Graham, it's been a Spanish benefit, that race, and it's mostly Spanish, and anybody who goes down there, a bit like the Spanish sending riders to ride the this event, the Paris-Roubaix, that the Spanish don't always attract some of the best riders north of Spain, do they? But, because it's a Spanish benefit. I mean, I think last year out of the top 20, only 2 were not from Spain.
Yeah, that's right. Well, they're super motivated for it, and it's also got itself into that sort of place in the calendar now where it has produced some great racing, but it's still quite difficult for a lot of teams. There's a lot of riders, even we've said here, the Spanish riders get sent there because they have to, and I think there's a lot of other European nations who have to go to Spain, really, and September, you know, some of them have already had enough for that year.
Yeah. Well, not having enough at the moment. Gerolsteiner, Frank Hoy there, trailing on. And behind a Unibet rider. By the way, there's a Unibet rider which you British viewers might be interested in is Jeremy Hunt. I think Jeremy would be sensible enough to sit in the main group and do nothing about it. What's going on now? There they are, going back up with the 2 riders wedged in no man's land. So the Brits in this race, by the way, please excuse me those of you who listen to the English commentary all across the world. I know also that some people now on the internet will be able to pick up the commentary and pick up some of the pictures in the top left-hand corner of one of our sites. Do bear with us if we spend a bit of time talking about the Brits ride. We do have Jeremy Hunt in this race for Unibet. Of course, Bradley Wiggins from Cofidis is also soldiering on, and Roger Hammond with the busted knee is riding for Discovery.
Put your head on my shoulder.
For the first time ever, Time Life Music proudly presents the classic love songs of rock and roll. 120 of the greatest love songs in rock and roll history.
Are you lonesome?
With Elvis Presley, Roy Orbison, the Everly Brothers, Connie Francis, Bobby Darin, and many more.
Hope and pray a dream lover will come my way.
Call the number on your screen now to get your classic love songs of rock and roll collection. 120 of the greatest love songs on 6 CDs.
Here he comes, that's Kathy's clown.
Every song in this classic collection is the original recording, all digitally remastered for the best sound ever. You'll get all the classics, the songs we fell in love to, the songs we danced to, the songs we'll always remember, by stars we'll never forget. Plus, when you call, you'll receive a free bonus album as a thank you for ordering. You'll get slow dancing classics, 20 of the most romantic rock and roll love songs ever. You'll get the entire classic love songs of rock and roll collection for just 4 easy monthly payments. Plus your free bonus CD and free postage and packing when you pay by credit card. Call the number on your screen now to take advantage of this exclusive TV offer from Time Life. Call now.
The lull before the storm. Those of you who've been watching the race since the start will know we had different breakaway groups, and which we'll update you in just a moment. But right now, they are positioning themselves because not before very long we're going to hit this big Roubaix d'Arenberg back in the race after many years. I think it's been in and out because it's a horrendous one. There you can see the rundown on those riders who are in the leading group. They're 1:55 ahead of a couple of guys who are chasing after, and the main peloton is at 2:40. And there the man with the motorbike comes on. This is standard stuff. They write it out there so they know what's going on. And this is an old-fashioned way of doing things right now. Of course, all these guys are riding with, you can see probably just about here that he's got a little plug in his ear, and he's picking up what the team manager's telling him back in the group. It's all come very scientific in recent years, but so they still use the blackboard out there. They still begin to warm up the field behind to close that gap down, and so modern technology with the way in which they have these two-way radio systems, and old-fashioned technology writing things on a blackboard with the men up on the motorbikes up in front. Then, Graham, a thought from you about the Arenberg Forest coming up ahead. You've ridden over this thing. They took it out for a bit. They put it back in again. Some comments about that, what is always looked upon as the most horrific stretch.
That's right. It's pretty fearsome stretch. They took it out a few years ago after the famous Museo crash. But that was when they go in from, there's one way in where you go in a lot slower, and the other way in where the direction that Museo had his crash, where you actually hit that first section of pave at about 60 kilometers an hour. It's very slightly downhill. But they've also took it out last year because there's been some restoration done on this section. But it looks on the pictures that it's improved, but according to a lot of riders' comments this last few days, it is no different really than it was before.
Yeah, but the same thing with the Koppenberg, wasn't it, on the Tour of Flanders last Sunday, that they reformed that and rebuilt it and made it. But even so, when they came to come on the Koppenberg, I think Boonen went up it like a dose of salt. The rest further on back were off their bikes and walking. It didn't look like anybody was really hit by that one in the Tour of Flanders last weekend. But it does seem that if you can't ride the cobbles, things like Arenberg and things like the Koppenberg, that's it, you're often walking.
That's right.
Or in trouble.
Well, Warenberg's slightly different. It is flat, but Koppenberg, yeah. I mean, once one rider's stopped in front of you, that's it. You've got to get off your bike. It's so narrow. I mean, it's actually a little bit wider than it used to be, which helped. But looking at Tour of Flanders last week, there's still, I think, probably 4/5 of the field actually had to walk up the climb. So it does kind of make it a little bit of a lottery in the end.
You're right. This is flat. That was hilly, but even so. Are some riders better than others on things like the Arenberg coming up?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is really, it's not so much the size of the cobbles, it's the fact that how badly they lay. It's the gaps in between the pave, and apparently from what I've been reading this last few days is that they've repaired it, but they've actually filled a lot of the gaps and they've made them slightly more level, but they've repaired it, and in the gaps they've put sand and things, but it's sort of like blown away, and those gaps are even bigger than they were before. So it's still going to be tough. You've still got to ride across it, and it's 2.5 kilometers in length. It's going to have some effect on the race.
well, this is the one before it, by the way, and this, by the way, we're saying is nothing compared with Arenberg. So you might be sitting at home there in your comfort of your lounge thinking, oh, these poor guys on their bikes, what a way to earn a living. And they don't get paid a lot of money, by the way, some of these guys, because these out in front at the moment are what I call the hopeful. You see the dust coming up there? Those are the preceding vehicles. Right ahead of front, there's one or two of the press cars up there. There are motorcycle outriders and so on going out there. And so they get all that dust coming at them. They've got the big Arenberg yet to go across and bounce over those. So this is where the other interesting thing too, what we're likely to see, just preempting it, the chase group are going to pull these two guys back. But every one of the top guys is going to have to be in that top 20 or 30 places by the time we get to Arenberg. If our cameras go back after this little one here, you'll see the jostling and pushing for the front. And how the hell, Graham, can you get the top guys into that top 20 place right now? It must be a bit horrendous. And the poor guys at the back haven't got a chance.
Now that's the whole thing about this. It's not just about riding strongly over the cobbles. It's about being strong enough to stay right at the front of that peloton. As you say, you've got to be in even, I would say, even higher than that. And the top guys have really got to be in that first 10 when they hit these main sections of Roubaix.
Oh,
another crash.
More pushing and shoving, and one of the Milram guys gone down. Well, Milram looking for a bit of success here. That is Cortinovia, who's gone down, and one of the riders also from the Phonak team has gone. And there is the doctor in the white. He's very quickly there, and look at him. He's got gumboots on, by the way. This is I've not ever seen. The worst dressed doctor I've ever seen. I shouldn't laugh, by the way, but he's very sensibly put his gumboots on, because had it been raining and he gets out there, he's got to paddle through the muck and rubble on the Roubaix, which is legendary for the grotty conditions. And so the doc is a very nice guy, by the way. He's turned up in his gumboots today. Well, there we are. He's very quickly. You see that again. Right behind this group here, the first car will be the main director of the race, and the next car will be the doctor's car. Right behind him can deal with anything that happens to go wrong. Christian Prudhomme is the key guy, who is the main director of the race now. Jean-Marie Leblanc will be travelling with the entourage. He's virtually retiring from the scene now, and but Christian Prudhomme and the rest of the people in that first car will be the main rider, main man from the UCI. The chief guy there. Again, I think, is this Konishev drifting back? 2, 3, 5.
It is Konishev, yeah.
Right, my chance before he goes straight out the back to do my Konishev thing. He's 40 years of age, by the way. On the 18th of February 1966 he was born, which, if my arithmetic is correct, makes him 40 years of age. I can't remember a 40-year-old riding in this race before. He's got a list of successes as long as your arm. I can't spend all day telling you, but he's been out there for many, many years now. He's won a stage in the Tour de France. I can see here 1, 2 stages in the Tour de France. Stage in the Tour of Spain, Tour of Italy, 1 stage in that one as well. At least 3 stages in the Tour of France, and 1, 2, 3 in the Tour of et al. So he's still going at 40 years of age, and so we wish him the best of luck to get back in that little lot. He had 1 victory last year in Asturias, and he's been thereabouts each year, popping up somewhere, getting a bit of a victory, being the Russian champion as well. Connors, a very nice guy, by the way, but he just enjoys his bike riding. And at 40 years, you 40-year-old couch potatoes back there right now with your tinnies in front of you and whatever you've had for lunch. Just think of that, riding a bike under these conditions. The guys on top. But again, though, at 40 years of age, Graham, this is a race for experienced guys, isn't it?
It is. I think we've seen a trend over the last few years, although Boonen broke that trend last year, where the guys who've been winning Paris-Roubaix have been sort of 34, 35, and it's happened quite a lot in the one-day races.
Skill and experience, dedication to pain, because boy, these guys suffer, and the older you get, the more you understand what the pain and suffering is like. So Konishev, 40 years of age, still soldering on, getting his sponsor a bit of publicity, as we can see then the colours of some of the top riders beginning to move to forward. Again, the blue and the white colours of the Quick-Step team. And there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, must be 10 back, is Tom Bonan?
Yeah, that's Tom there, sitting comfortably.
Sensible guy. So that's it then, and it's getting very close to the danger zone. We're getting, okay, they're all getting blown out the back now. The pressure's really on.
Well, the pressure really is starting to go on now, because this is the next section after this is the famous Arenberg. So riders will start to be getting a bit nervous now, wanting to make sure they're in that position. So the weaker riders are getting stretched out and getting dropped now. Although there's still a lot of riders left there, but I think that's due to the dry conditions more than anything.
And the speed, I think, how are we going on the schedule?
We are about, I think those leading riders are about 15 minutes up on the fastest schedule.
Wow.
So we could have quite an early finish if it continues like this.
So if anybody's put their video recorder on, they're going to get lots of blank tape at the end of it all. Well, you should never know, because the speed at which they're going could come down a little bit notch when they're starting the rough stuff. Discovery Channel, that's the team from Roger Hammond, who is looking for a chance to be up there. Having
Matthew White actually on the front there.
That wasn't he? No, he's a great guy, isn't he? Golly, Matthew, he's one of... We'll come back to that in a minute, because we're going to a commercial break, by the way, about Matthew White. He's one of the sterling performers. Graham's the same. We've seen this guy riding his socks off in the past. He's doing just what he has to do to close that gap. Let's see what happens after this.
The Gold Rush of 2006. 260 men and women from 34 nations. Welcome to the Velodrome. The Track Cycling World Championships from Bordeaux, from Thursday at 1800, live on Eurosport.
Can't read this. Can you read this?
I can't read this.
What's wrong with this?
It's in black and white.
Black and white's what's wrong with this?
Should be in color.
That is better. How'd you do that?
Xerox Color. It makes business sense.
Take anything, anywhere. The new L200.
Kannst mich am Arsch lecken. Ja, du kannst mich auch mal am Arsch lecken. Du kannst mich ganz viermal am Arsch lecken. Immer zweimal mehr wie du.
Eurosport präsentiert die bösen Tassen im Sparabo. Sende Euro 11 für das Handybild. Euro 12 für den Real Sound oder Euro 13 für das Video. An 5 mal die 3.
In terms of footballing entertainment, the French Cup rarely lets you down, with goals by the hatful and results that turn the form book upside down. The major teams of the French League will be there for the quarterfinals of the French Cup, Tuesday at 18:15 and 2100, and Wednesday at 1800, live on Eurosport.
With City cycling shoes.
There in the distance you can see the pit heads of the coal mines which lie ahead. In fact, they're now defunct, like so many coal mines across Europe. They've ceased to function, but they become areas where people go to look at what used to happen many years ago, when guys would go down into the depths of the earth and dig out the coal. Not now, but below the earth here, the coal mines still exist, and the shafts are there. And unfortunately, sometimes from time to time, the earth heaves a little bit, and there have been a few problems coming up in the next strip of cobbles. They're going to Arenberg. It was taken out of the Paris-Roubaix because of the terrible conditions with subsidence and what have you. They put it back in the race now, and that is where they're heading for right now. This then is the Hell of the North, and well, it was, as I mentioned earlier on, at Compiègne where they started this morning, where the armistice was signed on the 11th of November in 1918. The armistice was signed then, but right now I think they're going to throw away that. There's no armistice now. The race is really about to happen. I won't say it hasn't happened so far. We've got our breakaway group here with Conished still sitting at the back, by the way. He's been yo-yoing on and off the back of that little breakaway group. So what we're going to do before we hit those cobbles is get Graham Jones, who's ridden this race some 6 times in the past, just update us on where we are, who there is, and then the proverbial is going to hit the fan, Graham.
Well, it's about to hit it because we're about 3 kilometres away from the Arenberg section, and we've still got these 4 leaders. But the peloton's closed down. We don't actually have anybody chasing in between now, these 4 leaders and the peloton, and peloton is really stretching out. We've seen Matthew White from Discovery starting to prepare the ground there for George Hincapie, and the peloton, as you can see, there's getting smaller at the head there.
And Matthew White, what a workhorse he is, eh?
Yeah, he's been there or thereabouts all his career, really, sort of plugging away, and it's nice to see him really riding for a top team now, and it looks like he's pretty happy in Discovery and doing well.
Yeah, because I remember he used to turn up in the, I used to go down to the Tour Down Under, and he'd be riding there, and of course the Tour Langkawi, he'd ride both those things. He always, every time he'd ride those two, you'd see he was either semi-sponsored or riding for a small team, looking for a chance to make the grade. Here he is with the Great Discovery Channel.
Yeah, and it's always nice to be in. If you're not going to be a rider who's winning too many races yourself, you want to be in a big team and a successful team, because there's no greater pleasure in sort of like, if you can't do it yourself, in having a team where you've got people who are actually competing in every type of race, whether it's a tour or it's the one-day classics.
And Matthew is one of those guys who will bury himself for the rest of the team, isn't he?
He will give everything, yeah. You know that by the time whether he finishes or whether he doesn't, he will have done everything he can to make sure that Hincapie and Hoster have had an easy ride as possible to the Pavé.
I always know when I've been watching him on Eurosport and other events that I've been working on, that it gets a look on his face, like, you know, turn Grandma's face to the wall, because it's very frightening. He really hurts, doesn't he? Oh, it's changed now.
It's his quick step really putting the pressure on. We're actually coming right up to the section. This is the level crossing just before the section of the Arenberg Forest. So
where would you be when you're riding right now?
Probably in the car by now, I think. Now,
sensible chap.
The peloton will be hitting this first section of Pavé at probably about 35-40 mile an hour. That's it, they're on it.
Here we go then. I say, turn Grandma's face to the wall. It's not as bad as it used to be. Right now they barried off both sides of this circuit and just sit here. We won't say very much. We allow you to savour the moments as the Paris-Roubaix hits this infamous Roubaix de Arenberg. They've covered 163 kilometres of racing so far. They've still got 95 kilometres to go on this, the hell of the north. And behind this breakaway group, the main field will hit it. Right now then, as Bolan comes on the front, he knows what he has to do, and the rest are in his slipstream.
So Boonan's taking no chances there, making sure he's at the head of the peloton there, keeping well out of trouble.
This is the Paris-Roubaix, the greatest single-day bike race in the world, coming to you live on Eurosport. Graham Jones has ridden this 6 times in the past. Myself, David Devlin, who's seen it for 17 years now. I'm enthralled, as you are, I hope, about this great race, hitting those infamous cobbles. Up and down here, Graham.
Yeah, you get a real impression from that shot that just how this section of Pavé isn't flat. It's you go in downhill, there's to the dip in the middle, and then a long steady drag out to the other side. A great shot there, showing you just how close the peloton is to the breakaway.
And like riding a 2-wheel pneumatic drill, they're bouncing over the cobbles. Started this morning 11 o'clock Central European time, 10 o'clock our time, which you're back in Great Britain watching this. They've been out there on this race right now. Oh my goodness, and still look, the riders are going switching onto the grass on the side, trying to get through, and at least they put the barriers out now. One time there were no barriers in the days when Sean Kelly won this race twice in the past, would be switching and going around the back of the spectators very often, but now they've barriered one side of it out. For those of you who hadn't heard it earlier on, Sean has got the flu, not with us today, but Graham Jones and myself, David, are enjoying and saving this great race on this particular part of the Cobbles, typical Paris-Roubaix territory.
Interesting to see him not letting any spectators down one side of the road.
That's right, yes. You know, Graham, I think when you wrote it, they'd be all over the place, wouldn't they? The trouble is, they'd rather be switching and bouncing off spectators. I think it's a very sensible thing to do. It's taken out some of the, maybe some of the drama of the race in some respects, but it's a sensible thing. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think it is, and it's even more important now. A few years ago, they didn't really barrier this section, and there were times when riders were actually riding behind spectators on the sort of dirt at the side of the road, as you see where they are now. In the past, you'd have had all the spectators down both sides of the road on the edge of the cobbles and riders behind them.
But still, you've got a rider in the centre. They've actually done a lot of work on this surface now. It's not quite as bad as it used to be. The big lumps, they seem to be rather smaller, some of the cobbles now, Graham.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's whether they've actually done that much relaying, but I think you can see from those shots that there's still the big gaps in between those cobbles. So you can see that there's definitely sand in between them, that a lot of it's been blown away or worn away.
They've been on this course. We've seen them out there in the preceding days training on this, but there must be a difference. What's the difference between training and actually riding it?
Well, training, you can do it in your own time. You can pick your line. In this case, you're trying to either follow the rider in front or just hang on to that wheel. I was just looking there. It looks like there's about 15 riders coming out.
Yes, the field is split under pressure. Tom Bonan at the front, driving hard, and the rest of the guys now have got to close that gap as we go through this particular section then of the Allenberg, of 2,400 metres of hell. The next one will be at 170 kilometres, and that's just only another 4 kilometres down the road, and still they are grovelling in the gutter. Oh, they just told me, in fact, our French colleagues back in Paris picked up the fact that Duke Larcel was just being picked up on our pictures there. Sorry if I didn't pick him out, by the way, but he is, of course, the son of the man who won this race twice in the past, in 92 and 93. No doubt the old man has told him what to do. When it comes to this particular part, though, Graham, it's every man for himself, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Your dad gave you a bit of advice.
Well, yeah, that's right. Even as good as Gilbert was, he was actually a teammate of mine, by the way. So I actually rode Paris-Roubaix with Gilbert 2 or 3 times.
Did you ride when you won it?
I wasn't, no. I remember my first Paris-Roubaix. I mean, Gilbert was a year or two older than me, but he actually, I think he spent about 200 kilometres in a breakaway, so he was, although in those days he was learning the hard way by getting up in the road, and even then everybody knew that he's sort of like, everybody talked about Gilbert as being a man for Paris-Roubaix, and I actually think if he'd have been a Belgian or a bit more wily, he would have won Paris-Roubaix a lot more times and a lot earlier in his career than he did.
Well, we're just looking at the man who won it last year, number 1 on his back then, Tom Bonan, who has come into this race then as a hot favourite to do the double. That's to win the Tour of Flanders and the Paris-Roubaix in the same year. He did it last year. Can he do it again? In which so I think he's going to set an out-and-out record. So there could be a bit of regroupment, but it's not long to go before we hit the next stretch of cobbles. Just as I said before, about 4 kilometres, and then after that one, the next section, 1,600 metres, another section after that. Bit of a respite, maybe 10 k's to go. So it could regroup. We shall see. Looking back then at the remnants of the riders coming through, they really have been shot out the back. Any chance this lot getting back in the leading pack?
Definitely not. As we saw there's a group formed in front there, probably 15 riders. I don't think I think a few more riders will get back to that group. Although it's looking, the car's already behind there, so there's a nice little group here of about 15 riders forming.
That seems to be a bit early though, Graham. What do you think?
It is, but you know, once you get that group established like that, people want to stay out of trouble, and it depends on the makeup of that break as well. It looks like there are a few T-Mobile there, and I definitely saw Hincapie, Boonen, so as long as if most of the favourites are all there, then maybe a few more riders will get back. They might start looking at each other at this point.
But it's a big gap, isn't it, already? Just on one section of this race, must have been the thick end of 100 riders got to the bottom of that bit. And look at them all, dribs and drabs all over the place. Little groups here, those who haven't made it or haven't got team managers, the team riders up there, got to close it down. But one thing about this race, again, Graham, is it a chance for riders to make their own decision? Because how does the team managers start to redress it? I know they've got cameras in their cars, or TV pictures in their car, but where's the decision-making going on now?
Well, a lot of the onus in these sort of circumstances will be with the riders, really, and that's why in the past I've been a little bit against radios being worn by riders, because I think it takes a little bit of the initiative away from the riders' decisions. They need to be able to make decisions on their own, and I'm definitely for young riders not being able to use them, because they definitely need to learn how to race.
So there are words of wisdom from Graham Jones, 20th in the Tour de France, past winner of the Amateur Grand Prix de Nation and other great races, and has ridden this in the past, then rode the days when you didn't have these little earpieces hearing what the team manager... In fact, the interesting, I remember, I think it was in the Paris-Roubaix, Andrea Taffy was bouncing across the cobbles, and his earpiece was on the end of the wire, hanging out, and he wasn't attempting to put it back. I think he probably said, "Excuse me, you, the team manager," and just took it out, and so he couldn't listen to what the team manager was saying. He made his own decision. But that was Andrea Taffy, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, there are a few riders like that who don't like having radios in their ear, and quite often it's quite easy to take it out, isn't it? And they'll just say it's not working.
Well, that's what Andrea did, by the way, who won this race. I'm looking back, when did he get the race? Is the only one pick of words here, but he was bashing along there without his earpiece, so sensible guide he was. But I don't know, they're not persisting, are they, Graham?
There's not really going completely flat out at the moment, but they're keeping a steady pace. Again, not only does it depend on who's in that front group, it also depends who's in that chasing group behind. There's bound to be some teams that have missed out in this front group, because it just numbers there, and logically there's going to be teams that have no rider in that front group, so it's up to them to chase, really.
Well, there we are then, and the next stretch of cobbles to batter their bodies over, and it looks like they're persisting just a bit. Just imagine going across these cobbles by there if you're a track rider, and our thoughts go out then to Bradley Wiggins, that multiple medal winner in the Olympics, and a great track rider who's now riding out there in this race at the moment. And in fact, Bradley's riding for the Cofidis team. You spot the numbers on there, the Kelly got pick it out. He's got 148 on his back, Bradley Wiggins. And Bradley, I've got actually with me a little postcard here from Bradley Wiggins, and it's Richard Olchin actually published this thing for Sport and Publicity, and he gave me a copy of it about Bradley, and I've actually got it signed by, there you can see by the left-hand side, the Paul Gibus. That's not Gibus Lascelles, is it?
I think it is, actually. Yeah, it's a nickname that he got, Gibus. Yeah,
that's right. Back from a season campaign like Lascelles to Bradley Wiggins, he's actually signed it. Paris-Roubaix winner 2008, signed Bradley Wiggins. So he gave me this some years ago. He's in there. He's on the learning curve right now. I don't know if he's made it across. We haven't got the full breakdown on this this group that's in the lead. But Bradley said he wants to win the Paris-Roubaix. Well, he signed this a long time ago when he was a young sprog on the track. But certainly Bradley looking forward to be the winner of this race in 2008. There were Tor Husford, by the way.
Yeah, it's got a puncher.
Should be able to shape.
He's got a real puncher there.
Yeah. But would you rate him with a chance of doing well today?
Yeah, definitely. Well, he's proved he's got good form in Wevelgem. He's a big, powerful rider, so there should be absolutely no reason why he shouldn't be, but it looks like he's in trouble there.
Ah, dear.
No car behind.
Just the worst part. Before Arenberg and got back fine, after Arenberg, this is where the proverbials hit the fan, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. With real selection starting now.
And with the Discovery Channel hammering on the front, it would say to me that it looks like George Hincapie is in that group.
George's definitely there. There's a few people I spotted. Guédon, Boone and Van Petergem looks like he's there also.
So just about anybody's anybody, isn't it, looking at the lot? Yeah, there's George towards about. Yeah, it's a good cross section, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, watching all this feeding go on the side of the road, normally they have registered feeding place, but presumably this happens without people knowing?
I think it's they bend the rules, yeah.
Yeah. We won't tell anybody. So there we are. Look at the rundown of this one. Bonan, Hincapie, Gusev, Hosters there. My goodness, this is really a roll call of honour. Mickelson, Joe, if we'd have sat down here, in fact, I've got little notes on my start list here, underline those who could be in with a shout. I think at the moment there's not many that I've underlined that aren't actually in this one. So this is the heavy gang now who've virtually got the race themselves to themselves. Will they stay out there, or will some of the remnants catch up with them? We shall see as to what's going to happen as it's critical place now.
Mit AOL gibt's richtig was zu jubeln. Denn die echte AOL DSL Flatrate für nur 4,99 € gibt es jetzt mit dem AOL Sicherheitspaket PowerGuard. So sicher muss DSL sein. Schnell bis 30. April anrufen und 3 Monate gratis sichern. 0185 5656.
Der neue Toyota RAV4. Die große Freiheit. Nichts ist unmöglich. Toyota.
I told you the story. I remember always when I race, I have the leathers, and below I have the yellow T-shirt. And I say, why yellow? Why yellow? Because I start with yellow and I win with the yellow. So I say, okay, I like to use the yellow. But one day I go to the Grand Prix and I forget my yellow T-shirt. I say, oh no, I start to cry and say, oh, today is very bad. And I put another one, and black and or white, I don't remember, and I win. So after that time I say, okay, I don't care. I use a yellow or white, it doesn't matter.
Der Live-Herzschlag im Eurosport-Videotext. Heute schon gedrückt? Sport live auf Schwarz. Der Eurosport-Videotext.
Quick step in profusion here. We've got a gap of 40 seconds back to the main peloton, and an interesting breakaway group at the front that formed. And I'm intrigued to see so many of the Quick-Step watched on the front here, Graham. What's going on?
Well, the reason for that is that Boonan's isolated in that front group. This is definitely a situation that Quick-Step wouldn't have foreseen, whether some of them had any problems. But Boonan is alone in that group, and it's not what they want. That's why they're chasing, and Boonan won't be contributing to that leading group.
But why, Graham? Because when we go back to that group, we'll run down the list in that breakaway group. Virtually, I think there's almost without exception, they're all riders from one-off teams. There's very few with 2 men in there. So why are these guys going to take them all back? Because they may take up some danger men. What are they doing?
Well,
why don't they let it go?
I think they realise that most of the danger men are already in that group with Tom. But the fact that Hincapie, for instance, has got 2 teammates with him is the only reason they need to chase, really. They've got Hincapie's got Gusev and also Leif Hoster, who's obviously we know did well, finishing second in Flanders next week. So that is a very strong group, and also CSC, Cancellara and Michelson. So it's not a good situation for Tom Boonan to be on his own in that group.
Right then, this is it. The proposals hit the fan for the Quick-Step team, and they're not quick-stepping, they're quick-pedaling right now as the industrial part of northern France is beamed up on our screens here. Not the best part of the world for scenic views, unlike when we get to the big tours. By the way, the Tour de France, those beautiful views you get for there, and those of you tuning in saying, who's that guy talking alongside David right now? Graham Jones, 20th in the Tour de France, knows what it's like to ride in those conditions, and under these conditions likewise as well. They're giving a rundown now. You can see there the Discovery Channel, as Graham was saying, with 3 riders in there, and the rest of them down there, a lot of big hitters, Stakemans, another good rider who's with the Daviton Lotto team, and Ballon, he's in superb form. That's a little roll call there. Those who've been watching our coverage of the, in fact, Vesserman's made it as well. I thought he was on the sick list, but he was riding this one. He had a bit of not a good start to the season, but now then, I think I saw Tom at the back of the group. Do you think he's been told to sit in?
Yeah, exactly. It's just what I was just saying. He probably have made that decision himself actually quite quickly, but he's definitely not going to contribute, which actually play also into his hands as well, because if, for instance, his teammates are chasing and they spend a long time chasing this breakaway, at least Tom's sat there doing nothing in that group.
But also they're towing up Eric Zabel here. Look on the left-hand side, he's taking a free ride here.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think Tom Boone will see Zabel as a real rival for today's race.
But he's got to do something in the round, hasn't he, since he's been made number 2.
True, but Eric, I think nowadays in this sort of race will be there or thereabouts, but it's not going to not be able to win.
Why do you say that?
Well, he's getting on a little bit in years, and whilst
he's 40 years of age, he's been in the break.
Yeah, but he's not there now, is he? No, never say never, but I was surprised if that was the least of Bruin's worries today. In fact, he is actually going to the front now, but it may be just to sort of like follow through the breakaway rather than really force the pace. He's looking comfortable again anyway.
Well, very interesting situation. Brought to you live on Eurosport this afternoon. It's getting up towards about 3:05 Central European time. I think it's for the people back in Great Britain. It's 2:05 or thereabouts. So still a long way to go. A lot of action yet ahead as one of the cars go through. The red Skoda cars whiz through. Skoda actually started out making bicycles of all things many years ago, and now they're in, of course, the car business, as you know. And yes, even I had a Skoda, one of the Skoda Rapids some years ago with the engine over the back end, and people used to laugh at it, but it's the most fascinating car, and I respect his Skoda engineerings, and now they're into Tour de France.
And a big sponsor, yeah?
Yep, big sponsor too. It was just a bit of a joke the old days about Skoda. I thought that little Skoda that I had was a really interesting car, and it was interesting engineering too, because in those days in Czechoslovakia they couldn't do things at the sort of way in which we did them on the other side. Of course, they're now all part of the European Union, and good to see them in here with the Tour de France organisation providing the vehicles as you're sort of whizzing through there. So 28 seconds back to peloton. The riders from the Quick Step team putting their hammers out. Just give you a quick rundown on who they are. If you see the cameras going on to numbers of the riders, you can't recognise them. And go at the top. Number 2 is Chrétiens. Number 3 is De Jonge. 4 is Hulsmans. 5 is Knaven. 6 is Nuyens, past winner of the Tour of Britain. 7 Passato, and 8 is Van Impe. Now Passato is the interesting guy who won the Milan San Remo, and then even this last week has been performing remarkably well, and nearly knocked up his second victory, didn't he? So he won't be doing much if he's there, though, would he?
I would imagine. I would think he's second run for the lead of the team for today. So I would think he's probably just sat 4th, 5th amongst those riders and let the other riders chase. And the gap's coming down slowly. It's 20-odd seconds, so they're not, whilst they're not pulling it back very quickly, they are pulling it back slowly. So they could come back together.
Well, if the camera goes into there and we have a good look at the crash hats, the chap with the flowing blonde locks sticking out the back of his crash hat, that's Passato, and as Graham said, he might be lying about 4th in the chase, well, the front of the chase group, with the Quick Step guys having a go at it. Well, over the cobbles, bouncing across there, next lot of stretch of cobbles. They come thick and fast, by the way. No rest for the wicked on this one. Batters the bikes as well, as now we're on this section here, 3 points. It's sector 15 right now, and you can see why some of the riders, some of the suppliers have been providing with bikes with a little suspension system at the back end, so that the bouncing of the back wheel doesn't give you too much trouble. But the days when we had front suspension with telescopic forks on the fronts have now long since gone. I think they've decided, well, enough is enough. It's just been great interesting going along to the start, as we all do in the mornings before the race, and have a look around there to see what novelty people had got. But it seems to have gone back to more like normal now, although there are some bikes here with longer wheelbases, slightly more laid-back angles on the bicycles, because look at these conditions. Absolutely terrific, absolutely horrible. But they haven't got all their own way at the moment, the Quick Step, have they? They can't control the front, by the looks of it.
No, they're struggling, actually. It doesn't mean to say that Boone's still not going to win at the end of the day, but I think he may, if this doesn't come back together fairly soon, he may be on his own today.
But do you think that with Discovery Channel, are they going to get the instructions up there with George to really press on and make this chase difficult?
You would think so. You know, maybe they're quite happy with the way things are at the moment. It looks like, and from what I can see of the pictures that we're getting, that CSC tend to be the ones who are forcing that leading group.
But that's Posthumer's just come flying back. He's in the lead group. This is the lead group. It's splitting,
isn't it? This is the leading group, yeah, but Posthumer's been in that group of 4 riders, so I didn't expect him to stay too long in this group, so...
God, what a race. And we've a long way to go to the finish.
There's still an awful long way to go. A lot of pavé to go yet.
And what about the poor guys? Come on, Graham. I think you'll be back there sometime. Not being disrespectful, but what about the poor guys who aren't in these 2 select groups?
Well,
over by
yes, all over.
Yes. Team car.
Basically, you just want to find your team car or get to the next feed zone and go off and think about the next race.
There's another guy's been up in that league group. Dear me. Says it all, doesn't it? Look at the faces. We all know this, you know, the wheels are going down the road, and you look in there and the gap is growing and comes back, it gets, you know, you're just hoping like the motorcycle camera just leapt across there, just makes it so easy. But when you're on the bike, and you've been riding now, something like about 1, 2, 3, 4 hours or something, well, it doesn't close that easy, does it?
No, it's still sort of staying around that 27, 28 seconds, so... Although it's chasing hard from behind, that they're not hanging around in front either, as you can see by the riders that are being dropped and struggling to stay in contact.
Just take this all in back at home. Just imagine, these are bike riders, aren't they? They're travelling, the average speed, by the way, is probably the thick end of 25 miles an hour. I haven't worked it out, but it's probably between 25 and 27 miles an hour. Average, by the way, they're both be doing the thick end of 30 right now. Graham, what would you think?
I would think they are probably on this section, yeah. Section fairly flat, fairly straight, so I can see the actual overall speed for today's race exceeding 40 kilometres an hour.
Poof, over 25 miles an hour, and these terrible roads, and there you can see the whole entourage of the league group, the cameras behind, the TV cameras, also there's people out there who are reporting on to the radio stations off the motorcycles, travelling with the race as well, and the officials, they're making sure that all their requests are obeyed. And so this is, do you imagine the backup that goes with this race? Whilst we're watching the actual riders, the entourage that goes with the organisation. Above here is the helicopter picking up the pictures from the cameras being beamed out up into the sky, and then back to you, back at home there. It's an amazing thing, because this isn't like a football sport where suddenly everything happens within inside a stadium or an athletic stadium or something. This is actually out there, live on roads on which you wouldn't even want to drive your motor car across, but come across so the back roads up in the North Front, which probably hardly ever used except for somebody driving tractors or going to and from the farm. And that's bringing you some live sport. It isn't like a sport where you can wire it up and everybody sits there in gorgeous comfort and just this is one of the most unique bike races in the world, and right now at least they've got a bit of soft ground to ride on, Graham.
Yeah, that makes life so much easier when it is dry, that you can ride on those sort of the gutters, the sort of hard packed soil at the side of the roads. But just looking at that, Quick Step do seem to be struggling. That gap's still around that 25, 26 seconds.
There's only about one guy left on the front as well.
Yeah, and it's still in the front group. The CSC guys have been doing a lot of the pace, although T-Mobile rider there just accelerated. But Boonen still looks comfortable there, sitting second or third.
But are they going to attack him, or they leave it a bit later, those riders in that league group?
I think, well, it's definitely too early to be attacking Boone at the moment. Most of these riders will just be happy to be in that leading group and out of the way of danger. And I still think it's got there's a long way to go, and things will settle down a little bit. It's actually 45 seconds now to that chasing group, so we may well see a very, very surprising situation in the fact that Tom Boonen alone. You see how strong Quick Step have been in these type of classics the last few years.
Interesting stage, and so what we'll do is we'll pick up 1, 2 riders on here. If you've just switched on, then Graham will go down. Who's in that leading group, by the way, at the moment? Portal's been yo-yoing here in all sorts of trouble, so let's go down. Who's in that leading group, Graham?
We've got Tom Boonen, Quick Step, other riders in there, Hincapie, Gusev and Hoster, all of Discovery. Fletcher of Rabobank, the guy who's done well in the past, Postuma, Cancellara, Michelson, Van Petergem, Stegmans, Balan, Franzoy, Portel, Gedon, Weisserman, Eisel and Schreck.
Da ist eine Menge drin im Dropkick. Die Stars der Champions League. Die heißen Themen der europäischen Ligen. Internationale Klasse auf dem Weg zur WM. Macher und Meinungen zum Fußball.
Dropkick 06, jeden Montag 18:30 Uhr bei Eurosport. Dropkick 06, das Beste vom Fußball.
BNP Paribas, sponsoring tennis, every kind of tennis.
Du kannst mich am Arsch lecken. Ja, du kannst mich auch mal am Arsch lecken. Du kannst mich ganz viermal am Arsch lecken. Immer zweimal mehr wie du.
Eurosport präsentiert die bösen Tassen im Sparabo. Sende Euro 11 für das Handybild. Euro 12 für den Real Sound oder Euro 13 für das Video. An 5 mal die 3.
Can't read this. Can you read this?
I can't read this.
What's wrong with this?
It's in black and white.
Black and white's what's wrong with this?
Should be in color.
That is better. How'd you do that?
Xerox Color. It makes business sense.
This year's Paris-Roubaix is turning out to be one of the most interesting we've seen for many years. You're looking here at number 5, Sirs Carnarvon, who is one of the strongmen from Quick Step. But whilst we went to an advert break, and again Quick Step back here with other riders working hard as to what the heck's going on with Quick Step. They seem to have been thinned down at the front of the chase group, and isolated in the front is Tom Boonen. As the race then, well, still an awful long way to go, Graham, but 2 you can see there, 96.81 kilometres. The gap has now grown. What the heck's going to happen with the Quick Step guys? Are they going to back off now? We saw them there, they weren't doing much.
I think they'll give it a few more kilometres yet, but if it continues to increase like it is at the moment, then I think it's curtains, and I think Tom's going to be on his own.
Now, the guy's obviously unbeatable. This is heading. He's had 12 victories so far this year. Why would they want to get somebody up there to help him?
It's just reassurance, really. You can be. I mean, it does happen. You get a guy who is so strong that he'll beat anything that comes along, but he only needs to get to a situation at the end where you get him down with 2 riders from one team, say for instance a Hoster and a Hincapie in that closing kilometres. He may not be able to answer every attack that they throw at him, so it's always nice to have some team riders. I mean, in the past they've been 1st, 2nd and 3rd in this race on more than one occasion, Lefebvre's team, so it's a real shock for me. I would have not put any money on a group of 14 riders like this, and Quick Step only to have Boonen on his own. They'll be really worried at this section.
But we've still got a long way to go. 70 kilometres, 600, just inside 50 mile. But if it grows again and gets any further, wouldn't Tom just sit on the back and go for a little free ride in the draft?
Well, I don't think he's particularly contributing to the pace of this leading group at the moment. He's thereabouts, but he's not really forcing it. He's just following their sort of like as they're making the pace, he's following it through. But he'll be biding his time as much as he can. It's up to the others really. Now they're the ones with the riders in front there. I mean, Van Petergam's got 2 riders, CSC 2 riders, and Discovery 3 riders, and also Francis de Jure have got 2 riders as well,
so they've got to do the work, which some could go for a free ride.
In theory, yes.
Well, I say free. They're travelling over 25 miles out of the most horrific bits of road you've ever seen. And who would send a dog out a night like this? Anyway, on this stretch that they're coming through now, 14 kilometres to go. Sorry, 75 kilometres to go. That's the 14th of them all. And they've covered 184 kilometres so far. You can see there's 74 Ks coming up on your screen. As fast as I read it off my little notes, it pops up as they go through. And this particular section is about, well, you saw it there, about, I think, thick end of 3 Ks. It's 3,700 was the longest section. We've just come through one of them, so we're on to another fairly long section right now, and we are somewhat ahead of schedule as well, and certainly going rather quickly at the moment, with the riders some way to go, with a lot more climbs yet, the 14th more sections of cobbles yet to come, so there's a long old way yet to happen, and anything can happen. So fascinating at this part of the course. With it looks behind now that Chase. Why on earth have we got one of the riders from the Unibet team on the front?
I think it's purely the fact that Quick Step have really not got the legs today by the looks of it, and the Unibet riders, well, they've got a chase for their own race really, so I think Quick Step have blown the top this time.
Now then, don't tell anybody listening, but isn't there sometimes a bit of a conversation between a couple of managers? Say, you send your guys down to help because my guys are stuffed.
That can happen, yeah. But in this case, that may be the case. But if they couldn't have closed that gap when it was 20-25 seconds, I don't think they're going to close it now. And it looks like this front group have really got their heads down now. There's several teams now contributing to the pace. Francis de Jure helping out CSC, and also Horst are doing a lot of work at the front now.
Come on,
Hincapie will be very happy.
Come on, Graham, Unibet haven't got a catch chance in hell, so don't you think so? Help us out, mate. There's a beer for it at the end.
Yeah, possibly.
I shouldn't say these things about cycle race, but there are sometimes arrangements, I think, inverted commas go on. There we are. Right, back to the bike race. That's me fired. The chase is then being led by Unibet. The rest of the guys from Quick Step have taken a bit of pasting, and Bonan is out there on his own, a bit isolated right now as the group. Oh, interesting there, we can see the brake levers sticking on these handlebars in the centre. He's now gone back on there, and Graham, your technical expertise on why that is.
Just the third centre, I didn't actually notice that. The brake levers on the top of the handlebars.
Yes.
It's purely because a lot of the time that you ride across these cobbles with the hands resting on the top part of the bar, so at least you don't have to take your hands off the bars to get to the brakes when you need to, so it's just another reassurance really, and it's quite a good idea really.
That's it, we just spotted it then live on Eurosport, and the gap is now 1 minute and 27 seconds, and it just looking at that group, you're quite right, when they've got about 2 riders or 3 of us from each team, they're just sending one guy on the front to put the screw down, aren't they?
They are. The teams seem to be taking it in turns at the moment. This 1 minute it's the Discovery doing a lot of the pace, and at the moment it's the Francis de Jure riders, and you see Boonen there having a bit of a stretching his back, just moving to the back, but it is settling down a bit, this group now. I don't think we're going to see any riders come from behind.
So the 2 guys from the Francis de Jure, as our spectators are cheering the race through, come back together towards the back end now. They've just been on the front stirring things up a bit. They have a bit of breathe before we've hit the next lot of cobbles. Well, there's the guy. This George has to be in with a shout this year, doesn't he? I mean, the guy's been there or thereabouts all these years in this event. He must be smiling right now. And if you were Tom, would you sit on George's wheel all the way through from now on in?
I think everybody else would be looking at those two herself. I mean, I think Hincapie himself has said it's sort of like this year, now or never is his biggest year, and there's no more seconds and thirds. So it'll be interesting to see. And at the moment, although we do know how well Tom Boonen's going, at the moment it is, if you had to pick who's winning on points at the moment, it would be Hincapie.
Well, George Hincapie, second last year, and very disappointed with that particular second place. He's always been there or thereabouts, always in the leading groups, and so certainly bold George, I think, would like to finish in second place. In fact, Fletcher hasn't made it either with this group, has he?
Yes, he's there.
Oh, he's there.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah,
so
21 Fletcher.
He was third last year, so he's made it as well. And so we've got some guys who knows what it's like to go across the finish line in the top 3 places. And in fact, what I'll do is just look back at last year as to who filled those top spaces, because you're quite right. I think we've in fact, the people back in Paris pressing the button now, and they're going to put up some statistics for me. I'm leaping here to try and tell you a bit more about last year's race, to tell you exactly who did what, because we got loads of guys in this breakaway group that finished up there in the frame. Now we're going through section 13. Unlucky for some, and for Tom Boonen, who's looking for his 13th victory of the season so far. Is that a good omen or not, I ask myself. And just savour this drama live here this afternoon on Eurosport. These guys, danger, men at work. Oh dear. We were just talking about Fletcher finishing last year in 3rd spot, and then 13th and 25th. But further back you can go, except for Fletcher, the rest have been absolutely nowhere, have they, over these years? And they've actually not preempted. We preempted them by talking, didn't we, Graham, about the Spaniards at the start? But that's a significant. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's proof in writing there. So it's good. But Fletcher's, well, it showed how good a rider he is, a one-day rider he's becoming by being in this group again. I mean, nobody's really spoke about him really in the build-up to this race. It's all been about Hincapie and Boonen and Cancellara, but Fletcher's there again.
You're quite right, because when I've been over these years watching this, when he's been riding in all those positions he's had over these years, you don't even seem to notice him in the race itself.
That's right. Everybody's been looking at Hincapie, Boonen, CSC guys, but yeah, it takes a lot of skill to be that sort of rider, actually, to sort of always be there and thereabouts, and nobody really taking any notice.
But how do the rest of the riders react if you've got I use the word wheel sucker, because the guys won a lot of races with courage and ambition and ability, but something like that who's just sitting in there, do they say, well, let's watch out for this guy? Or I mean, we've seen all the time so far that there's Hincapie, there's Boonen, and can Fletcher sort of lay a bit back?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, he'll be sitting there thinking, well, I'm on my own, there's 3 of you, there's 2 of you, and I'll just sit there and keep quiet. He'll keep as quiet as he possibly can at the moment and let the others sort of battle it out and hopefully profit.
Well, he's riding from Rabobank now, so certainly that the whole of Holland, I think, we're going jumping up and down, and my co-commentator and good friend for the Dutch channel will be Danny Nelson. I think we'll be also rather excited about this as far as they're concerned, and so that the Dutch, even though he's a Spanish rider, will be, I think, rather interested to see if they can get a success today in some form or other. Still, situation normal, nothing seems to be different, except that they're just trying to drive this gap between themselves and the chase group. And the crowds are getting thicker and more density as we get towards the back end, and people are already prepared now to zigzag across, jump in their cars and find themselves a place further on. The crowd's not yet filling up in the finishing area. They're going to finish on the track at Roubaix, this lovely track outside the football stadium. So it's around about 400, 500 meters round. It's a big swinging track round, quite steeply banked, and fortunately no rain today. But again, the tactics on the track when it comes down to sprinting, 1 or 2 have been caught rather napping on those occasions, but they're not thinking about it at the moment, as Boonen has moved up there into 3rd spot. And is he behind Fletcher? I asked myself.
Fletcher, yeah.
Yeah, so he spotted him probably. We were talking about it, Tom's heard us. Right, my goodness. This is full of incident. There again, you can see the handlebars. They take the cameras off with that little brake or brakes in the centre. They were right. They can go back in to show how they are using those, but hands on the tops of the drops here, bouncing over the cobbles. Do you get a sore bum when you finish?
No, I don't think you do really. I mean, from what I can remember, the worst pain is usually the knuckles.
Is it?
Yeah.
Knuckles?
Yeah, so I think a few riders have made that comment, but it's always what used to get me the most is the knuckles.
Ah. Tom's...
I think he's saying, where are they?
Yeah, his hand went up there. He wasn't feeling his pulse and his heartbeat. He was pressing his little button, wasn't he?
Yeah. And Petergam there, looking comfortable.
He has to do something now, doesn't he, Ben Pettigrew? I won't say he's on the slippery slope, but he's just peaked, I think. He's got to do something today.
Yeah, well, he only races a week a year, so...
I'll tell him next time I see him who said that. But it's true, isn't it? This is it.
Almost, yeah, that's it. He has one big week a year, and that's it, really. And whatever else he does is a bonus.
Yeah, well, there we are. Let's see if he lasts all the way through, gets to the top 3 places, and chance for them to take a quick drink, and he's back for the next set of cobbles.
Ultimate sporting adventure. Teams of super fit athletes grappling with punishing challenges in some of the planet's most awesome wilderness. 4 fabulous competitions on 3 different continents for a place in Raid World Championship. Cross Adventure, the Raid World Cup, Wednesday at 22:45 on Eurosport.
Saab and Solomon present Cross Adventure, the Raid World Cup in Western Australia.
For me, getting in the zone was something that was all-encompassing. It meant being the first guy on the beach, rigging my gear, so that when other guys came down thinking they were early, they saw me already there, already rigged up, ready to go, first guy on the water, and just going, oh, Robbie's already here.
How would you feel that today I can do anything with the board?
If you're in the zone and everything is clicking, the conditions are right, your gear is tuned, you're just firing on all cylinders, you know you're going to win.
Yeah.
Welcher alpine Skistar gewann nach einem spektakulären Sturz noch zweimal olympisches Gold in Nagano? Senden Sie Quiz, Leerzeichen 1 für Meyer, 2 für Miller oder 3 für Cretier per SMS an die 82060 und gewinnen Sie. Gewinnen Sie mit Arctic Lansing, dem Soundexperten, MP3 oder Multimedia Player, Ihr eigenes In-Motion kabelloses Boxensystem, Carving Ski und viele andere Preise. Arctic Lansing, just listen to this. Senden Sie einfach Quiz 1, 2 oder 3 an die 82060. Sie sind an der Reihe.
Check this out.
Check out Eurosport's brand new World Cup magazine. Get the inside stories and the latest word. All those gems of information will give you everything you need to take part completely free in the World Cup game. Become the #1 trader at wcg.eurosport.com. In the final program, the names of the big winners will be announced. The prizes, a fantastic plasma TV, a digital 5.1 speaker system, and universal remote control. World Cup magazine on Eurosport, and sign up today at wcg.eurosport.com.
Bit of a discussion going on here amongst the riders before we hit the next lot of cobbles, and they seem to be settling down to driving that group forward, breakaway group, with just anybody's in that breakaway group at the moment. So Tom looks a bit more determined. He was swanning off the back a bit further back, but perhaps Graham, he might have been told how to get on with it.
I think he's realised now the gap's now 1 minute 52 seconds to that second group, so I think he realises now that this is it really. The race is going to come from these 14 riders.
So if you want it down the bookies like you did for the Grand National yesterday back in Great Britain, then this is the time to make your choice as who's going to survive, because there's no way this lot are going, I think, to get to the end of it all. Either fatigue will set in, or there may be a few mechanical problems, or certainly team tactics will come into it, because well, there's a good cross-section here, isn't there, of various teams, but 1 or 2 teams are,
There's 1 or 2 teams have missed out. Gerolsteiner, for instance, is quite a big loser, and they were talking themselves up quite big before in the pre-race sort of comments and things, Gerolsteiner, but they haven't got anybody in this group.
And we haven't seen them do much chasing either, did we, when the cars went back towards the chase group? So that's it as far as they're concerned, by the sound of it. So there's no celebrating with fizzy water, because Gerolsteiner, I won't say the word is manufacturing of fizzy water, but it's not a well-known brand, I don't think, back in Britain, although you may, the Gerolsteiner managing director will now probably send me a naughty letter saying, yes, it's available in every great supermarket, but it's a well-known mineral water in Belgium, sorry, in Germany, and of course the Germans now very much involved in the sport, particularly with their interest over the years with Ulrich. It seems to have grown and grown and grown, and now we've got the big teams. This Milbrand team has just come along, which is a milk cooperative. They're also now involved in sponsoring New Gerolsteiner, and of course the T-Mobile squads, and they are getting much behind the sport, but they've missed the break today. Feed zone time coming up.
It's a traditional feed zone, Bouvray-la-Forêt, just coming up to Orchy, and the next
It sounds like you know that. Did you stop there?
Well, I used to live in this part of the world.
Did you?
I used to live in north of France for the majority of my career in France, so I know these roads really well, and I know the next section is a particularly good section. It's right along, sort of starts right alongside the motorway. There's a footbridge going over the road, so it's a particular stopping off point for spectators, although until the police usually. A lot of the cars park on the hard shoulder along the motorway until they get moved on by the police, so it can be quite dangerous.
Well, dear viewer back at home, the one thing is that normally with Eurosport, what we try and do is to drive along the last, say, 40 kilometres of a race to understand the terrain, and over the years that I've been working for Eurosport, I've also taken my bike out with me, because for 3 weeks we cover all the big classics and stay out and ride over the courses. But the one I have never been able to ride across has been the Paris-Roubaix. It's not the sort of place you can actually go and go out for a training ride and take the whole thing. So I'm very thankful that Graham Jones here knows a lot about the terrain, is able to give us the insight on the conditions and what's happened out there. And I think also probably isn't the greatest place to go out and ride just for pleasure. One thing about you go and ride things like Liège-Bastogne-Liège, running over the last 40 k's Liège-Bastogne-Liège is very nice terrain to go across, and all those early season those classic races, I've all enjoyed riding on them, but this one has not been one that I've been across. So thank you, Graham, for the insight into it. And because we can't drive because we're on air for so long before the race starts, and Eurosport as ever bringing you the insight of cycle racing, and we've got some more statistics coming up, and we're going to look back at the victors of the Paris-Roubaix and the Tour of Flanders. Because we brought the Tour of Flanders last weekend when Sean Kelly was with me before the dreaded lurgy got him, and he went down with the flu. Get well soon, Sean. Well, there we are then. We can look back here at the Tour of Flanders and the Paris-Roubaix, those who've actually triumphed in it over the years, and there's quite a big roll call there. And of course, going back to last year, Tom Burnham, but I don't think we've got anybody who's done it 2 years on the trot. So looking back at that, what a famous roll call it is as well. Some of those great names over the years. Van Petegem, well, he would like to even get the one on this particular occasion, but he's still racing at the moment. But the rest of them, looking back at those years, a big roll call of honour, Rick van Looy, De Bruyne, Impenis, and well, they are those who've been watching the sport over the last few years. That's a big list. Rick van Looy, there was a character.
There was, yeah. Although I have great, one of my all-time favourites was Roger de Vlaming.
Yeah.
Monsieur Paris-Roubaix, as they called him.
Did you ride alongside him?
I did, yeah. It was one of always one of the guys who looked so good on a bike. Just looked like he was part of the bike.
Didn't he? He floated, didn't he, on the bike?
But I mean, I think I saw a statistic. I mean, I'm not saying this 100% certain, but I'm pretty much certain that I think in all the time he rode Paris-Roubaix, never punctured.
No.
In all those years that he rode it.
Gosh.
Now, whether that's incredible luck or whether it's just pure skill of the way he rides over the cobbles. I mean, he used to. If anybody could smooth out cobbles, it was Roger.
He did, didn't he? I remember he seemed to float, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Did you ever try to follow?
Not on this type of terrain. I didn't know, but I've seen him do some pretty good things in other races in the past. Just unbelievable bike rider.
So De Vlaming then on the list there. Still pops up from time to time. We see him out there. He's in fact, I remember that some years ago he gave us a very good insight into the climbs on the Tour of Flanders, about where to be and what to do, because these races, it's not only the ability to ride there, Graham, isn't it? Understanding of the course and getting to the feeling for things.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, certainly on a race like this, to know that the next section's coming up in 500 metres or 2 kilometres away, and knowing what type of section it's a big plus to know where you're going.
How much different is it now compared to years gone by? Because, you know, my great idol, Fausto Coppi, who won this thing, in his days and so on, they wouldn't have the same opportunity, though, to train across it, would they?
Probably not, no. It's, I mean, not as easy to get around Europe in those days as much. But I mean, I'm sure they did a bit of a recce, but going back probably into the 60s and 50s earlier, the route probably didn't need as much looking as it does now. Now they're searching out more and more of these small cobble roads. I mean, it's pretty much settled down now, the route, over the last few years, after a lot of sections have been preserved for this race. Sort of almost got a conservation order on a lot of these sections. But in the past, the route was, although a lot of cobbles, was very much more direct on bigger roads. So maybe it probably wasn't as important to sort of see all these small roads and twists and turns. I mean, a lot of the roads, not just the cobbles, but there's a lot of rough, small, narrow lanes even in between the cobble sections.
Because going back, the record average speed set up is by Peter Post in 1964, and he set the record, which hasn't been broken. And those, I think when Post rode it, it was virtually straight up the main roads. They didn't go on these little detours.
That's correct, yeah.
So Peter Post way back in 1964, 265 kilometres it was then. He beat the infamous Mr. Behe, who was world champion through a little bit of skullduggery in the finish, I think was the
with
word.
a teammate.
Oh dear me, that was a few years ago. Anyway, so Peter Post is still fit and well. He ran the TR Rally team for some many years, and then he was the chap who did the fastest. But then they say they rerouted through the back doubles, causing all the trouble. And some great roll call of honours, the names that we saw. Even going back, Felicia Gimondi, who won this race. Again, great road riders, weren't they? Who could also cope with this race before they really made it. I would say that the rest of the guys who win it now aren't great road riders, but they're all round. Eddie Merckx won it as well. Like Merckx and Coppi, our record holders and so on. I don't think we'll see Tom Bonan going for the hour record, but in those days you had to ride everything that was coming. The same thing for you, wasn't it? Everything was there, you had to ride everything.
Yeah, I was just going to actually say the same thing, that a lot of riders nowadays, a lot of riders have although the season stretches from February to the end of October, a lot of riders' personal aims are a lot shorter and a lot more compact than they used to be. A lot of these riders who win other races are often capable of winning some of the other races, but they have more of a feel and want to ride the Tour de France or whatever. I mean, Eno was a prime example of a rider who could win any bike race in the world, but he was never interested in Paris-Roubaix. He was more or less press-ganged into the fact, oh, you never ride Paris-Roubaix because you can't win it and all that. And then eventually he said, I'll ride it, and he won it. That's when he was in the rainbow jersey. So the riders can do well, but they tend not to take the risks and risk losing their form for another race later in the year.
Well, there we are, onto section 12. Look at this, the Paris-Roubaix. If we go off to the scenes that you're seeing on your screen back at home, rabbiting on about other things, Graham Jones putting in the background to this great sport of cycle racing. An amazing sport. The riders go on the big mountain, the Tour de France, the Tour of Italy, the Tour of Spain. They go on the single-day races under tremendous hard conditions, and this is the greatest of them all, the Paris-Roubaix. Do you have a lucky charm to say I don't puncture today? Because if you imagine Tom Bonan there at the moment, it's got to hope and hope and hope. Or do you just ride and say, I'll just ride and that's it, and if I puncture, so what, I'll deal with it when it happens?
Well, I'd say you ride hoping you're not going to puncture, but you can never tell. I mean, the advantage now is that the race has settled down. We have got this group of 14 riders, and the team cars are pretty much there now. I mean, especially Tom, his team car will probably be first car in the convoy. So if he punched it now, he'd get serviced really quickly and be on his bike before you know it. He'd probably be back on to the group in 2 or 3 kilometres.
Keep your fingers crossed for all these riders then who've really put the hammer down. 152 is the gap back to the what's left of the main group, and it all happened, by the way, on the run through the Arenberg, which honestly, Graham, I didn't expect. What about you to split to this degree at this particular point?
No, I'm surprised, because Arenberg does come a long way from the finish. I usually expect a selection of some sorts, but I would have expected a regrouping. As I said, when it got to 20 seconds, it's more than likely going to come back. It's Tom Bonan is alone, but it's proved we've been proved wrong, and this group has stayed clear. So it is early to have a selection, and I anticipate that this, well, I would think that this group will probably stay together until 30-40 kilometres to go, and then we'll start seeing this group split.
How far will they keep up this sort of level of speed, though? Will they keep going, or will somebody say, well, you can come back a notch now, we're 2 minutes ahead of the chase group and we can ease back, or they're still going to drive hard all the way through?
They'll drive on the cobbles, and then in between what you tend to get is just sort of like the pace is just sort of turned over and kept going in between the cobble sections, and on the cobbles they will drive it, because it's usually on the cobbles is where you get rid of the weaker riders, so you'll start, as you see, keep seeing Portal struggling at the back, so they'll gradually probably see more riders going out of the back of this front group, and then, you know, until we've got a more select group.
But what about the chase group? Will they lose more time on the cobbles or lose more time on the flatter bits?
I would think the chasing group will actually lose time on the cobbles and gain on the flatter bits. So it's actually come back down to 1:45 seconds. So they haven't given up yet. I'd be surprised if it does come back, but at the moment it's 1:45.
Well, the next stretch of cobbles we're going through, section 11, will be at 205 k's into the race. The section they're on now, section 12, after 198, they come out of after 200 kilometres. So they've got 5 kilometres to the next section of the cobbles, and after that another 5 kilometres for the next section of cobbles, and after that another 6 kilometres. So 5, 6, 5. About that's the gap between it. Not a very big gap at all. So we're talking about sort of 2 to 3 miles between each of the sections of cobbles. So there's a lot more coming up then, as we still just come out of section 12, 11, and the rest are yet to come.
The World Snooker Championship from April 15th, live on Eurosport.
Take anything, anywhere. The new L200.
Cyprus, welcome to the island for all seasons.
Well, there we are, this breakaway group of riders who, for thick end of nearly 2 minutes now ahead of the what's left of the peloton, and still situation, as far as we're concerned, could be down to getting a victor out of that one, because the chase group, I think, have had enough of it, and Tom Bonan's sitting in that leading group at the moment, and we've got one or two key riders in this one, haven't we? We've done well in the past.
Yeah, definitely. We've had we've got 3 past winners in this group: Guerdon, Van Petegem and Boonen, so there's plenty of riders in this group who've proved themselves, and also there's a few other riders in that group who have consistently done well, never won it, but have consistently finished in the top 10. Hincapie's finished in the top 10 6 times in previous Paris-Roubaix, so
it's
about time he won it, and I don't think he's ever going to have a better chance to do it than today, especially with Boonen being on his own. Other riders have done well. Michelson's finished in the top 10 3 times, as Weserman 3 times also. So plenty of experience in that leading group.
And we were looking back to see where Gusev's come from, and in fact he's the Russian time trial champion last year. He's been there or thereabouts in the early part of this season. I've seen his name crop up all over the place. He finished actually 10th in the Tour of Flanders last year, 9th in Gent-Wevelgem last year, and 12th in the Paris-Roubaix. So he's no stranger to bouncing over the cobbles as Gusev, the Russian rider, who's in there. So again, maybe he's got work to do in this group at the moment, but one or two riders either A, have done it before, or B, know what it's all about. So we've got a lot of experience in this main group, and experience is what it's all about, because they actually did the right thing at the right time in the Arenberg. But looking back over the I can't remember it splitting to this degree, and the gaps opening up. It usually happens a bit later on into the running toward the finish, and then of course what happens as we get in toward the finish? Do they all stay together and sprint it out, or they start to try and break away in towards the end? Well, that'll all be revealed on Eurosport here, as the group here with George Hincapie et al. Seems to have a very good camaraderie amongst his team as well, and George has lost a bit of weight as well. I think perhaps extra weight doesn't matter on the cobbles, but George is a much sharper guy now, and of course I suppose over the years he was playing number 2 to Lance Armstrong, except in the single day classic, so perhaps now he's got a chance to show himself and just prove. We all know he's a jolly good rider. I think he won the 3 days of Depana the other year in convincing style, so he's got the ability, hasn't he?
Definitely. I think he's just done well again in Depana recently. Obviously he was there in Gent-Wevelgem as well, Flanders 3rd, so
yep.
he's proving much better all-round rider and very consistent, and obviously that stage win in the Tour de France last year was a bit of a
wasn't it?
Phenomenal ride. So
I think he looked surprised, didn't he?
I think it'd be interesting to see how well George does in the Tour de France this year. I think he's a top 10 man if he decided to concentrate on do well, and if he really wanted to do well in the Tour.
Now come on, Graham, you've been out in the Tour de France all these years, not having ridden it, but working for BBC Radio. Do you think without well, this has settled down, we know who's in that breakaway group unless something happens to it, do you think that without Lance we're going to get a more different and more interesting ride? I wasn't disinterested when Lance was there, but how do you feel the Tour de France this year?
I'm quite looking forward to it in many ways, to the fact that it'd be interesting to see who does take on that mantle. Yeah, of course, he's looking comfortable. But obviously everything in the last few years has revolved around Lance, but Basso we've seen already in good form. He's already won races without probably being anywhere near 100% yet, so Basso, Cloden, people like that, and Ulrich, of course. It'll be interesting. It'll be nice to see a really open Tour de France going in there with a complete blank canvas almost.
It is, and I've already picked my man to be in the top 3 and probably winning it, and nobody will listen to me, you see. Cadel Evans.
Yeah, it's quite possible. He's proved himself. He's been
there
consistently before. Yeah, could be, but now all those sort of people. It'd be interesting to see if somebody, because whoever finishes 2nd and 3rd over a number of years doesn't necessarily, when it comes to actually winning a race, and controlling a race, it's a completely different matter. So it'll be interesting to see if Basso can take on that mantle.
And there we are, all the back, legs 11, wearing 11 all over his jersey at the moment, George Hincapie, who will be bringing across on British Eurosport. Big coverage of the Tour de France this coming year yet again. Out there will be my good friend and colleague David Harmon with Sean Kelly, who will be off his sick bed by then, if you're wondering what's happened here with our usual commentary team on the Tour of Flanders after all these years being out there with the bold Sean Kelly. Graham Jones has stepped into the breach. Thanks very much indeed, Graham, for coming and joining us on this occasion. But Sean has got the dreaded lurgy, the flu. He'll be on the Tour de France. I'm sure he's recovered by then. And with David Harmon out there on site and back in British Eurosport, we've got brand new studio facilities. We've moved out from our previous facilities, and now we will be bringing you the coverage of that race. We're doing a lot of build-up for it as well, so just make note in your diary, blank off, take 3 weeks holiday if you want, go and watch the race live and watch it on Eurosport, wall-to-wall coverage of the big tour. Of course, we'll be covering all the big tours as well. Our coverage of cycling on British Eurosport, better than we ever had before. By the way, my apologies, I think this race also is going out on our international Eurosport later on. And I apologise to viewers, because in fact it's going to be beamed out into the east and out into Mongolia, out into Asia, out into China. I think China aren't picking up at the moment as the attacks are coming thick and fast. Graham will put you in the picture on this one. I'll come back to what we're doing there, and I apologise to people listening in other languages. Fletcher, isn't it?
It is Fletcher, yeah. We were just saying a bit while ago, he's just sitting there quietly, but he's actually attacked now. So he's sitting there's Boonen comfortably going clear of the lead. He sees the danger in Fletcher there.
But by Boonen, when the other guys have got 2 or 3 guys from the team?
He's obviously very confident in his own form, and he's not worrying about what the other guys are going to do. He's seen Fletcher go, who's done well in Paris-Roubaix before, and he thinks, oh, well, that's a good wheel to go with. So, and there's a reaction from behind. So I think he'll start, and we're actually not this section, but the next section is a very, very possibly the longest section in the race. I don't know without checking, but I know the Mont Saint-Pével is around 3 kilometres long, and it is a 5-star, as all these sections of pavé are categorised. This is a 5-star section of pavé, and I think this next couple of sections now we'll start to see things sort out.
And the riders know this?
The riders know that. They'll any of these riders that are in this group will have ridden over the course this last few days.
But not at race speed? Or do you try at race speed?
Not at race speed, but they'll know. They tend to sort of like have a hard go. They'll recuperate in between the sections when they're out training, and then give a really good hard ride on each section of cobbles. So, but they'll all know this, either from past experience or from this last week's training.
Well, there we are. If you're watching it for the first time, wherever you are, I say we've got international Eurosport now, where this is going to be beamed out, right out of Mongolia and out into, I think, even Japan they can pick it up, and certainly in Malaysia, and right back down to Australia. And I also understand, for those of you who can get it off Eurosport.com, I think in the top left-hand corner, we're not, David Harmon, a very good colleague and friend of mine, who was doing the Tour of Burgos this last week. He's very good at computers, and he was able to pull this thing up, and we were getting emails coming in on the forum, and people on the forum passing messages back and forth. Do bear with us, because we're not doing that, Graham and myself, because we can't always get the facilities where we're working from, and also this race changes every second. Things can happen, and the drama's out there. So if we're not answering you on the forum, do bear with us. I say my colleague David Harm's much better at that than we are. I'm still living in sort of days of steam, but I hope you're enjoying yourself out there, exchanging views on our forum. And those who are watching in British Eurosport, welcome to you. Those on international Eurosport, welcome indeed. And those on our normal world Eurosport thing. So it's going all over the place. We're the biggest satellite and whole of the sports network across the whole of the world, and Eurosport bringing you the best of this great race, the Paris-Roubaix. Then this is the 104th edition of this great race. Well, problems seem to be coming here, Graham. Then he's been yo-yoing on the back several times in the past, or his teammates have. Statements then from the Davidson Lotto, they seem to be thinning down that leading group.
Yes, that acceleration from Fletcher has really had an effect, and I think we've lost 2 or 3 riders there. I know Portal was struggling, also Wesserman was struggling, but he looks like he's getting back now. So I think this section and the next section, really, we might get rid of a few of these riders and have a more select group.
It's just a wearing down process. I mean, that attack from Fletcher, why do that this far out?
Well, it's a surprise to me, actually. I think Fletcher was hoping would happen what did happen at Boone and went with them, but unfortunately these other riders are strong. But it is a wearing down process. The next attack might get rid of some more, and there's another attack going now from Francis de Jure, maybe Guédon.
But if you've got 2 or 3 riders, do you take it in turn to do that? But you're only going to get rid of the weakest rider. You wouldn't cause much damage to people like Burnham, would you? So why
not really?
Now? Why not wait till the last 10 or 15 Ks?
That's true, but that's the way things go. Maybe he's just feeling strong. But having looked at that, again, Fletcher's quickly jumped after Guédon, so he might be in danger of just maybe getting a little bit too excited and doing too much, unless he is extremely strong today.
But we all know this. As a bike rider, you think your foot is strong, and suddenly the man with the hammer gets you, and you go, don't you?
That's correct. It can happen any time in this sort of race.
Because it's tiring, isn't it, this one?
Yeah.
not just the distance, but the terrain. How tired do you get? What do you feel like for the next couple of days?
As I say, you do feel pretty much. You've got you're breathing in dust, and your eyes get full of grit, and your lungs and everything. Usually, you're coughing up sort of muck for a few days after the Paris-Roubaix on a day like this. So it's all round. But I think we've got rid of a couple of riders there, possibly.
Well, coughing up back at home in Ireland is Sean Kelly. Get well soon, Sean. Sorry you couldn't be with us. Twice winning this past race, and thanks to the input from Graham Jones. Forgive me if I keep repeating what I said before, because people do switch on towards the end. As we get now to the last 48 kilometres, he's ridden this race 6 times in the past, knows a bit about it and the suffering going out there, and it seems to be settling down. Well, we've tried to wear out some riders there, but just to put you in the picture from now on in towards the end, it's very seldom we get a lone rider who goes off to try and make it on the end towards on his own. Andre Chamil was the last one who went away 62 kilometres from the end, and he managed to roll in. Fausto Coppi, by the way, my great idol, went away and covered the last 45 kilometres on his own. The great Eddie Merckx, of course, you expect him to do that, wouldn't he? He did 44 kilometres on his own to win the race. Ballerini did some 42 Ks. Gimondi did 41 Ks on his own. Duclas Sal, whose son is riding in this race, did the last 40 kilometres to win it on his own. So it's not something that you normally do toward the back end. One or two zany riders have done it over the years. People like Ballerini, De Vlamic, and even Henny Kuiper was only, 16 Ks to go. But generally speaking, it happens in the back end of the race, but I don't think anybody's going to be mad enough to leave this little group. It seems to be fairly compact at the moment, as one by one they struggle over the cobble. This then one is the Mons en Pevelet, and this is the one that you rate, Brian.
Yeah, this is a tough section. It's not so much how rough, but I seem to remember there's lots of gaps and bits where there's cobbles missing completely, so it's a good one for the odd puncher or two.
Well, they've covered 210 kilometres of the race so far. That's about 130 odd miles in English money, and they've just got those 48 kilometres to go to the finish of the race.
Cancellara looking very strong as well.
And this guy Fletcher, he's just driving, isn't he?
Why
punching this hard? I know it's 3 kilometres of terrain, but the guy is unstoppable.
He does seem to be at the moment. He's very extremely confident, or a bit silly.
Or mad.
So yeah, there could be either really.
Third last year, doing an awful lot of damage. But it's not working, is it? It's
not working at the moment. All it's doing working at the moment is sort of... he is making a few riders struggle, but nobody's really going off the back completely.
But is that his job? Shouldn't it be one of the Discovery Channel guys to do that?
You would think so. I mean, but fair play to him. He's having a go. He's not just prepared to sit in there and let everybody else do it. But you would think he'd realise that you know, he's not going to ride away from people like Boone and Van Petegem and Hincapie. As Portal, who was in that original 4-man breakaway right from in the early parts of the race, and he's still hanging in there.
The gap's growing though, isn't it?
Yeah, I think his days are numbered.
He's not even finished in the top 10 either. I suppose it's nice to finish in the top 10, because we've got here, what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, about 12 riders left of this this group that went away after the Arenberg, which was the one that really caused the trouble, and that was after 163 kilometres of racing. So at this particular point right now, they've done about another 35 kilometres, this little group, that caused the damage in the Trophy d'Arenberg, and the rest seem... Oh, what on earth happened?
That looked like Hincapie.
It is it? Yes, it is. He put his hands up and down he went. What happened? And he looks badly hurt.
I really don't know. He looked like he'd take his hands off the bars for some reason.
And he's broken something, surely.
Oh, he's obviously given up by the looks of it.
Yes. That's not the guy who's just fallen off, wants to get back his bike, is that's it?
No, that looked like somebody. Normally you're up and you even...
Here we go, watch it. He's at the back. He pulls over.
Oh, his handlebar stem snapped.
Oh, no!
His stem has snapped.
There he is, look. and he's banged down on his shoulder. His stemmer's gone, but has he broken a collarbone? He's sitting there dejected. Has something gone wrong, I think? What do you think?
Looking the way he sat there, he knows straight away that something's gone wrong. He's either broken something, or I think it is the way he's holding it is his shoulder.
A moment of great sadness for George Hincapie. What a great disappointment of a man who set, I think, probably also his whole season, its early season yet. As now, look what's happened here. Boonen, I won't say he's taken advantage of that, but he knows now they're wearing down this group here, and George Hincapie is lying there very disconsolate. He finished second last year in this race, and he was going so well this season, but apart from breaking those handlebars, it looks like he's broken his body as well.
These two look like the strongest guys, Cancellara and Boonen. This group's really thinning out now. So, but that's incredible. That you don't very often see that today with today's modern materials. Oh God, we nearly had another faller there, Cancellara.
Pulled his foot off, didn't he, off the pedals?
It's like Balan and Van Petegem, four riders there.
See, people don't realise, do they? Not only the body's getting battered, the bikes get battered on this race, don't they?
Yeah, but that is something you just can't account for, that sort of thing. It just seems strange. We were looking head on, and it looked as though he'd just taken his hands off the bars, and then only when you saw the replay, you realise that it snapped just clean off below the. It looked like it's actually the fork column that had snapped off, without looking at the bike closely.
Well, of course, the new handlebar stems, in the old days, the stem came out of the fork column, then turned, and the whole thing was like an L-shaped one piece. But right now, they have that bolted into the
A-head types.
Yeah, it comes through, doesn't it? And they bolt it in, so you've got the fork column coming up, and then it's bolted into column. And it seemed like it might have split straight across, because, but that's unusual, because in the old days, I don't think they do it now, but in the old days, where the column came up, they would thread the column to put the heads down to lock in, to hold the bearings in place, and that was always a weak spot when they threaded the column, so that the lock nut went down and held the bearings in place. But now with the new system, it's a smooth column that comes straight up, and the actual headset system holds the bearings in place, so there isn't any machining of the column. So normally your column would come through, but there again, if the column is carbon fibre and it goes down to carbon fibre forks, it comes all the way up. Carbon fibre doesn't bend. It goes like that, doesn't it? It just cracks straight off. That may be, I don't know, we'll see what happened later on, but carbon fibre, there's no bending there, it just shears straight away, and you get no warning.
Well, certainly the stem part of it and the handlebars were still connected, so it looked like it has, for me, it looked like it had to be the fork column.
Yeah, where it just sheared as where the thing is bolted. Because again, when you bolt that handlebar stem as it comes back, we may get a chance to look up. They have to screw it in anyway, so presumably it clamps in on the column, doesn't it? Oh, dear me. So, Henrik Redant there, looking out of the car, looking to his mate. Henrik Redant, another great single-day classic rider over the years, won that Paris Tour, and a very great guy indeed. Henrik trips out to also Langkawi.
He has been out on Langkawi a couple of times.
Yeah, and we just saw him there having a word with his rider.
Two groups of four by the looks of it, and Fletcher's not with that leading group of four, so maybe he's paying for his efforts.
He wasn't in any way caught in that crash, was he? So it looks like he's...
No, because Hincapie was at the back of that group really when he crashed, so he didn't really interfere with what happened. It was just an acceleration by Boonen and Cancellara. It's the third group on the road.
Well, there we are. That's the group then. It's fragmented. We've still got 42 k's to go. It's I don't know. just shows you how strong those front guys are, not to wait till a bit later. Bonan is the man who looks the strongest man, isn't he, at the moment?
Yeah. Well, look, if
well, the other guys are with him, but I think he's dictating the pace, isn't he?
Yes, if Tour of Flanders is anything to go by, then he will be the strongest. I mean, watching Tour of Flanders last week, I don't think I've ever seen anybody win so easily in a race of such high standing, particularly Tour of Flanders.
Yeah.
All those other 3-4 riders there just getting back.
Surely they need him to get back, don't they? I mean, if you've got a gap like they've got now, or does he not want to tow hopefuls with him?
I don't think he'd be too worried about those other 4 now.
It's only like 25 miles to finish, isn't it? So nothing in this distance.
No. Fletcher that seems to be doing majority of that work, though, to bring those chasers up to the leaders.
But I think one of the Discovery guys is on his wheel as well. So what they got to do now? They've got rid of George. If George is gone,
well, they'll ride their own race now. Hosto will be, I would have thought, would be the second favourite of their team. So
there's a chance to get back then, isn't it, with the 2 guys there?
Yeah. Well, I think this more than likely looks like they will get back together. The one that's just lost out from this chasing group before is Eisel of Francis Dejeux.
But Fletcher's not holding the wheel.
He's struggling, which kind of says that those 2 Discovery riders are looking quite strong.
Or is he going through one of those bad patches that we all go through at some point?
I think probably the thing a lot of people forget is that there is quite a strong northwesterly wind blowing, so when they're going off these, you not only got the cobble sections, but in between those cobble sections you're on very exposed small roads, and the crosswinds, even there you can see that the wind's probably coming from the cross headwind from the left, so it doesn't make things easier.
They're called out of the poursuivants, the chasers, but it looks like the steam's gone out of these 3, doesn't it? They don't seem to be busting a gut to get there.
It's Gaydon, Weserman and Stegmans.
I think they're just waiting for that lot to come back rather than to get up to it, but I don't think they're going to get much chance of that, as Tom Bonan is still driving this breakaway group. We're getting up towards 40 k's to go, and this the Paris-Roubaix.
Now you can get all your best loved country hits together in the Time Life Classic Country Collection.
Just walk on by.
Conway Twitty, Jim Reeves, Tammy Wynette, and the one and only Marty Robbins.
Out in the West Texas town of El Paso, I fell in love with a Mexican girl.
Every song in the 6 CD Classic Country Collection is the original recording, no re-records, and they're all digitally remastered for the best sound ever.
They say don't go on.
The classics of the 60s, the best of the 70s. Songs we'll always remember.
Tender kisses.
Each album comes complete with historic photos and stories about the stars and their music. Plus, use your credit card and you'll get this Hank Williams album free, featuring 25 of his legendary hits. So call now to enjoy the Classic Country Collection on 6 CDs. If it's not the best country collection you've ever heard, just send it back for a full refund. Plus, use your credit card and get your free Hank Williams bonus album. That's 115 country hits in all. So don't wait. Call the number on your screen now.
No, we're not train spotting. We're covering the Paris-Roubaix, this most famous single-day bike race in the world. Coming up then to the 8th of the declining numbers of cobblestones that they're going over towards the end of the race. We started out with the 27th debut of the cobbles at Trouville, and that was after some 98 kilometres of racing. Then the proverbial hit the fan, and since then it's been a war of attrition as the riders have been blown out the back and they've fallen off, they've crashed, and the sad news was that George Hincapie has also crashed and has come out of it. So the cobbles are coming down now, and we just now got 8 of the cobbles yet to go towards the back section. We're on this 8th one of the sections, this one at Pont Thibault, and then they're going over 1,400 metres of cobbles. Next one is going to be fairly short, just 200 metres. minutes after that one, but then we really start to get in toward the back end of the race, and right now the dust is flying, the drama's out there. Hincapie is out of the race, but still we've got one or two of the star riders left. But has Fletcher got back since we went on our break? Doesn't look like it. So.
Yes, he is. Fletcher's in that leading group.
And he's on the front.
Yeah, 7 riders now in that leading group.
What on earth is he doing on the front? He was grovelling a bit further back.
I don't think he knows any other way. Yeah, with 7 riders now, Boonen, and then the 2 Discovery riders, Gusev and Horster. Fletcher, who was riding on the front, obviously. Cancellara, another strong favourite and who's performed well in Paris. Van Petegem, previous winner, and Alessandro Ballan of Lampre. That's the 7 leaders. One rider's just slightly behind there is Bernard Eisel of Francis Desjeux. He's just off the pace a little bit.
And the sad news then, if you just switched on or looking at one of our recorded programmes, or you've come in a bit later, that George Hincapie had a bit of a crash further on down. His handlebar stem broke and down he went, and we think that he might have cracked his collarbone because he didn't bother to get up. He just sat there very disconsolate. A man who's finished 2nd last year in the Paris-Roubaix. In 1999 he finished in 4th spot. The year before that, in 2000, he finished 6th. In 2001 he finished in 4th spot. 2002 he finished 6th, and in 2004 he finished 8th, and in 2005 so the poor guy has been up there and just with a sniff of getting the winners laurels is now sat there disconsolate. Whilst he'd be in the following vehicle now, absolutely out of the race. But that is the Paris-Roubaix, isn't it, Graham?
That's it, yeah. And it's just like kiss of death, or maybe the fact that everybody was saying this year or never. So. And he was looking comfortable, he was in a good position, Boonen on his own and 2 teammates, but it's not to be.
George, get well soon, and for those people I think who are picking up commentary over there in the US of A, because I think now on our website system coming onto Eurosport.com, you can find your way through it, and up in the top left-hand corner, the little postcard picture of what you're seeing here. Eisel now is having a few problems, then certainly, I don't know where George's wife Melanie might be, whether she's actually here. I think she's usually been out to finish this race in the past, but I don't know where she is right now. But and their young daughter Julia, well, disappointment for them that they won't be seeing Daddy up there in the rostrum. They're living out, I think, back in Grinville in Spain now as they move, so possibly haven't had a chance to see if she's here or got the little kiddie with her, but disappointment for them, because they'll be watching if they're up in the rostrum, up in the big grandstand area. They will have seen the big pictures you're seeing. There's an enormous big screen in the finishing stadium where they're going to be thundering into the crowd, which is beginning to fill up with the people who've been out on the course, going in then into Roubaix to get up there in the grandstands and watch the race coming up onto that finishing circuit, the cycle track which goes around the outskirts of the football field. The excitement is beginning to grow. They can see the enormous big screen, what we're looking at now, this enormous great big screen. Daniel Manjas, the announcer, beginning to wake up the spectators and give them some information about what's been going on. They're all getting jolly excited indeed, and we're all waiting to see this last 25 miles of the race unfold before your very eyes. Again, at the back here, the Discovery Channel guys, well, number 13 on the back here. Unlucky for someone, it wasn't George that had number 13, he was wearing number 11, and that at the moment is Yusuf, who is probably, I think we've been chatting about this guy, probably the dark horse in this lot.
Yeah, I must admit, I would know very little about him, but just thinking the guy Eisel, who was dropped on that previous section of couples, is now back with that leading group, so we've got 8 in front, but instantly he went straight to the front of that group, so you'd think he'd have a rest and sit on the back for a while, but
this is what happens to bike riders, isn't it, Graham? Anybody who's watching this programme has raced a bike knows you go through I don't know what it happens, like you hit this wall. I know that the marathon runners say they hit the wall and they're finished, but cyclists go through that bad patch and then you can come back as strong as you were before you had that bad patch. It's just how long the bad patch is.
That's it, yeah. It's like on the Tour de France, people say that you're always going to have a bad day. It's just hopefully that bad day is not a hard day in the race, or you're having it on a flat day. So.
And you have to try and not show to people around about you going through as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's more difficult said than done.
You end up stuffing glucose tablets down and go, oh God, I'm going through it. Oh, like a zombie. And then you come back, and then, well, we've seen Fletcher come back now, so perhaps he's through his bad patch. But one guy who hasn't had a bad patch so far, stirring up at the front, Tom Bonan, no doubt about it. He's giving it some stick this race.
He is, yeah. He's obviously very confident. It'd be unbelievable if he can do the double 2 years running.
Well, there we are. The peloton back, 3.5 minutes back, so it's, as far as they're concerned, they're just going to motor in towards the finish, have to go through those grotty showers, because it is a football stadium in the centre here, and I tell you, the showers have to be seen to be believed.
From
no,
the dark
don't
ages.
look if I were you.
From the dark ages.
Yes. Well, right, there we are then. Lefebvre riders in the Paris-Roubaix. Looking back over this little lot here, well, Tom Bonan looking back at those victors over the years. I don't know what this little thing is all about, so chat amongst yourself. You probably know more than I do, but Taffy 5, what's he? Well, Andrew, that was a great guy.
No, that's riders under Patrick Lefebvre's leadership.
Oh, got it, right.
His results, so his worst, since 1999, his worst placings are 2 5th places, so it's not bad, is it?
No, he's a nice guy, isn't he, Patrick?
He is, yeah, I raced with him as well.
Did you?
A long time ago, yeah.
He's a much more laid-back manager, isn't he, as well?
He is, yeah. He actually seems to be very much in the background. He doesn't actually do the driving in the car nowadays, yes. But he's more as an overall manager and sort of like the real brains behind the team.
Yeah, he never seems to lose his temper either. We've got another statistic coming up, by the way. We'll come back to Patrick Lefebvre in just a moment. Another one here. O'Brien, of course, he's a team manager now as well, and that's a rundown on his riders in the Paris-Roubaix. Well, not a bad little list either, but those are the ones he's got now, because Johan's only just recently moved into the top slot in the team, hasn't he? But there we are. Well, George Hincap, his name up there. Look at that. Oh dear, all the numbers of rides he's had in the Paris-Roubaix. Oh, they're saying they're mistaken statistics. Well, there we are. The big windmill.
Thinking the same thing.
Yes, I know. When I was many years ago working for a certain company, Philip Cycles it was, they called me the windmill because my arms kept going round and round when I was talking. But there we are, sitting in the commentary box. We can't do that. There ain't much space, by the way. Let's just have a look what's happening here. We'll come back to Patrick Lefebvre when we just get through the dust. It's Fletcher on the front again. No, hang on.
No, it's Van Petegem.
No, it isn't Petegem. Oh,
34 kilometres to go. We're getting down to it now.
Aye. Right, a bit about Patrick Lefebvre then before we go back into the race then, because you raced against him. What was he like as a bike rider?
Very quiet, actually. Didn't really, I mean, I seem to remember he was a very good amateur, but never really shone much in the professional ranks. But quite often I've always thought that it happens in other sports as well, that the guys who make the best team managers are usually the guys who are not the top bike riders. I think they have a better understanding of what riders need, what riders' needs are, and can understand when things are not quite going right. And yeah, I think you tend to learn more being not always winning, but you learn more the whole aspects of the racing scene from being a sort of average to good rider.
Also, Patrick Lefebvre is a man of my own heart. In one of the cycling magazines that we're seeing Bonan here really knocking 7 bells out of the rest of them, he writes about the various wines. He's a great wine buff as well, and he actually gets printed in one of the cycling magazines. I was his tip of the month, but I often read that and I feel very jealous.
Yeah, not surprised.
Right, back to the bike race then. So certainly Patrick Lefebvre, now very much a team manager. And I think watching as we are, the race unfold for it. By the way, just before the really thing, the race blows apart the seams, a quick plug, by the way, that CSC, who, I don't know, maybe looking more towards the big tours, there's a film coming on called Overcoming, and it breaks in the Ritzy Cinema in Brixton on April the 28th. They're showing the first of the Overcoming, and a camera crew went out with the CSC team covering the whole of the 2004 activity, and with Bjorn Rees in there. That's going to be very interesting, I think, to follow it in the cycling magazines where it's going to be held, and so you have a chance to look to that one. Certainly that's very interesting to see that cycling is getting out on the box, and that's one for you to to put in your little diary to watch out for as it works its way through, because what we don't see very often, you're seeing here on television, those of us commentating, we go and see people at the start, we see some of the riders in the evenings at the races, but actually getting in there, in the team cars, in the hotels at the end of it all, the in-depth that goes on, well, you have no idea, because the life these riders lead, you just turn on your telly and see them bouncing around here. It is the most unreal lifestyle, because well, if you're in another sport with another sport, you just turn up to do it. But this, they're moving here from there to there and back in, living out of hotels, and they certainly don't have the normal life anybody else has, but they love riding bikes. You do not become a top-line bike rider at this level unless you like riding your bike, because out there it's a monk's existence almost as you travel the length and depth of Europe. And in fact, as this part of the course starting out, as I have done already, some have been out there in Qatar to that race out there to Tour Langkawi, been to Tour Down Under, been out there in America with a new race over there as well. So it's an amazing life that these riders lead. They're now heading in towards the end of this 105th Paris-Roubaix.
The Gold Rush of 2006. 260 men and women from 34 nations. Welcome to the Velodrome. The Track Cycling World Championships from Bordeaux, from Thursday at 1800, live on Eurosport.
Can't read this. Can you read this?
I can't read this.
What's wrong with this?
It's in black and white.
Black and white's what's wrong with this?
Should be in color.
That is better. How'd you do that?
Xerox Color. It makes business sense.
Ah, da seid ihr ja.
Hey, wo kommst denn du her?
Aus eurer Zukunft.
Bist du da hochgekommen? Wir haben hier ein echtes Problem.
Probleme kann man doch lösen. Meine Freunde können alle möglichen Lösungen liefern. Ganz schön cool, oder? Hoch mit euch. Man darf mit dem Klettern nie aufhören. Man soll immer ehrgeizig bleiben. Und man braucht eine Vision im Leben. Was gibt's denn da zu lachen?
Welcher alpine Skistar gewann nach einem spektakulären Sturz noch zweimal olympisches Gold in Nagano? Senden Sie Quiz, Leerzeichen 1 für Meyer, 2 für Miller oder 3 für Cretier per SMS an die 82060 und gewinnen Sie. Gewinnen Sie mit Arctic Lansing, dem Soundexperten, MP3 oder Multimedia-Player, Ihr eigenes In-Motion kabelloses Boxensystem, Carving-Ski und viele andere Preise. Arctic Lansing, just listen to this. Senden Sie einfach Quiz 1, 2 oder 3 an die 82060. Sie sind an der Reihe.
Having a good look now at what's left of that breakaway group, very much thinned down, 2, 4, 6, 8 riders in that group. Graham Jones alongside me in the commentary box. Welcome, Graham, to this great race, 104th Paris-Roubaix. A rundown on who's who in this breakaway group.
Yeah, well, with 30 kilometres to go, the leading group of 8 riders now, and the winner is definitely going to come from this group of 8 riders. We've got Tom Boonen, Vladimir Gusev and Leif Hoster, both of Discovery. Fletcher of Rabobank, who's performed well in this race before. Fabian Cancellara of CSC. Van Petegem, another previous winner of Paris-Roubaix. Alessandro Ballon of Lampre, and Bernard Eisel of Francis de Jeux. This selection now is the final selection, and it's going to come from these riders.
Right, looking on the little group there, so people can spot it. That was Van Petegem pulling off the front in the sort of red, white, and orangey colours, isn't it? Is this Usov at the back?
No, that's Hoster at the back.
Hoster back, yeah.
41 Cancellara. There's Van Petegem just coming to the back now.
Experience, isn't it, this race? Look at the guy. He knows what he's got to do, isn't he?
He is, yeah. It is incredible, because he's about 38 now, isn't he, Van Petegem?
Skill and experience, that's it. Well, this guy, he could cause a few problems, couldn't he, Ballon? He's had a very good start to the season,
definitely.
hasn't he, for his team.
Yeah. The only rider we really don't know much about is Gusev, but we shall see.
We shall see.
I would think he's turning his attention though to working for Hoster now. Hoster obviously has good form.
Yeah, and I think when he comes down to finish, he's got a chance. But this man Fletcher here for Rabobank, if you're looking to spot the guy you want to go for in the orange and blue colours for Rabobank. Up in front, Tom Bonner, you can't miss him out, wearing his World Championship jersey. The story was, in fact, I haven't had much chance to look at his jersey, but as he's leading on the Pro Tour, he's supposed to also have the Pro Tour jersey, which is the white one, but I think they've plastered the Pro Tour logo onto his jersey somewhere, but it's somewhat hidden. The Discovery Channel colours, you can pick that out, no trouble about that. So, at least you could ID the riders, go with your favourite, but got to be Tom, hasn't it?
You can't really see any further than that. The only person I could
bet
see...
the bookies have closed the books right now.
I'm sure they are. If it's like some of the football punters and the books, they close the books halfway through the season. In this case, it's probably as near as you can get to that.
So the chase group coming up behind Stegmans, who's had a jolly good start the season as well. Gaydon, who's won this race in the past as well. And Besserman at the back in the pink. Not in the pink this year at the moment. He's not been too well. We expected to ride in the Tour of Flanders, but he didn't make the start there because he was feeling a bit grotty. So I think that's caused him a few problems. In fact, he looked a bit chubby around the
midriff. Yes, it does actually. Yeah.
But it doesn't matter much on this race, does it? Today, there's no hills to go up, just the cobbles to ride over. Anyway, Besserman's certainly up there. I remember he's been out on the Tour of Langkawi in the past. I actually saw him outside the swimming pool a few years ago. He looked much slimmer then than he did today. Right, back to the race. And you can see the crowds are coming up on this great race then. Full of drama over the years, and certainly we're not going to see, as we saw some years ago, that tremendous breakaway, the longest breakaway in this race when Andre Chimir went away to win the race by 1 minute and 13 seconds on that particular occasion back in 1994. They're well going to wait towards the back end, I think, now. Amazing year that was. And we've seen people crashing. We've seen George Hincapie's handlebar stem break and he crashed down, and we think he might have cracked his collarbone, or certainly looked in all sorts of trouble. But certainly the race today on dry conditions, we've not had the glorious mud that we did have in 1994 when Andre Chimir won the race on that occasion. That was the year, by the way, Franco Ballerini, who had that dead heat, inverted commas, way back with Duca Lassalle. He actually finished in second spot, despite having 3 crashes and 5 punctures, and still finished in second spot. This is a race which is unpredictable. We saw it happen with George Hincapie. The dust is here, the riders are driving on, and the man of the moment is on the front. "26 Ks to go, 259 kilometers in all for the race, and Bonan is still absolutely unstoppable."
Certainly looking that way. We've got another, this next 3 or 4 sections, or the next 3 sections of Pavé are all pretty tough sections, and I can see the section of Pavé I've got my eye on here is the 4th to the last section, Le Carrefour de l'Arbre, which is a really tough section of Pavé, and it's a long drag, and I think that's probably where the final move's going to be made, I think, or one of them.
Well, for those who've been with us right since we started our commentary, goodness knows, 3.5 hours, whatever the case may be, just let me go back to what we said at the start as we're seeing these riders bouncing along. This is glorious pictures you've got here. You can live the moment, and thanks then for Graham Jones joining us in the commentary box when Sean Kelly cried off sick with the dreaded flu late on Friday, and now with 27 kilometres to go. The input from Graham, who's ridden this race some 6 times in the past, did make it to the finish, knows what it's all about. We'll talk to us more about that last stretch of infamous cobbles yet to come. You can see there 133 back. Oh my goodness, balance had a problem. Did he just crash there? We couldn't see it, did we?
I think 2 of them had a problem there. It looks like...
Here we go.
Oh dear, that's...
And Fletcher nearly had it as well.
Yeah, Fletcher was very lucky there. It's Ballon and Gusev, I think.
That's the Paris-Roubaix, isn't it, eh?
It is, yeah. You've got to be vigilant right the way from the first kilometre to the last.
Is that why we're seeing Tom on the front?
Yeah, straight away. Plus, Tom's obviously feeling very strong, and he's probably thinking about trying to thin this group out now.
Well, nearly 3 of them went to box of tricks. They've not only got to get back and get on their bikes, they've got to chase that thing down. The big thing is that as they come down, fortunately behind is the usual cavalcade of motor cars and motorcycles. They managed to stay there, but they've got to get back there. And often you're bruised and battered, and damage is done, but also your confidence at the moment, and you're fighting yourself back. You're emotionally involved in it. You've got to get back there, close that gaps down. You're on your own. There's nobody to chase you. Just got to steer the bunch down there. But will they ease back, or they say, well, that's it, goodbye?
I don't think they'd ease back at all, which actually just gives you some idea of how strong Ballan's gone, because he's left Gusev for dead there, and he's back in no time.
Well, this man Ballan, that was one of my tips, tapping the side of my nose about, could do quite a good ride today. He had that crash, but he's back in there at the moment, and let's hope that he's not had too many problems being shaken up in that crash. But it was a sliding job, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just on the corner. There's sand and grit and all sorts on those cobbles, and plus uneven, badly laid cobbles.
Well, he was 5th in the Tour of Flanders just this last weekend. There was Ballan, so he's up there. Tom Boonen won that one, Leif Hoster, and both those two came in ahead of George Hincapie, who's crashed out of the race when he's looked like his handlebar stem broke, or the handlebar column broke. Hincapie was in this little group. He was in the Tour of Flanders. His last Sunday was in 4th spot. Ballan was 5th. Cancellara was 6th. So we got, you know, it's a roll call of honour. It's of anybody from the Tour of Flanders is here.
This is correct.
So they know each other.
They do.
So how do you pull one out of the bag and catch them napping?
With difficulty. But still, there's a lot can happen still. This section of the Pavé was just seen. It looked like that group was sort of settled, and actually, if I could just see Gusev looks like he's getting back on.
So he's back in the action. It was a slide, wasn't it?
Yeah.
If you can, yeah. Another thing, of course, there's no great strong wind today, is there? It's windy.
There's wind, yeah, but it's not really blowing.
Right then. Oof. So, is he getting back? Yes. Well, unlucky 13 for some. In his case, well, is it going to be a lucky 13 for Tom Boonen? 12 victories, 13th coming up. Is it the kiss of death, or is he going to make it? No, I'm just stipulating, or postulating is the word.
Again, it's just way up. You just can't see beyond him at the moment.
There's nobody over the years, I look back at my books, I've got half a minute now, or perhaps at the end of it all, of a world champion that's done as well as he's done. Most world champions go into the next year and do nothing.
Disappear, yeah.
Don't they? Over the years you've been around, I've been around. The World Championship, it's like a kiss of death, isn't it?
Yeah, you can see, particularly Friday. I think Friday, the times he's won the World Championship, did have one good year, but generally he had a pretty poor year, and we've seen some, in what I would say, pretty poor world champions over the last few years.
Yeah,
so it's nice to see somebody who races in February, March, April, still there in the Tour de France, and also still there at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think Eddie Merckx was one of the few world champions that still rode and did well during the following year, wasn't he? Yeah, there's a load of them, just that's it, bang, you don't see him again. Mind you, some of the world champions, because the one-day race, got there almost by accident, didn't they?
Yeah.
We've seen one or two world champions think, well, how did he get that? But they lived off it the following year, made a lot of money, but that's the last we saw of them. But Tom Boonen, no doubt about it, he's the king of Belgium right now.
Yeah, well, he's a breath of fresh air to cycling in general, I think, Tom Boonen.
Yeah, because the Tour of Britain, which you're very much involved in, Graham, we're on a stage there, and he's a nice guy to interview, he's a nice guy to talk to. He speaks well, and he speaks several languages, and no doubt about it, he's good for the sport. That's the man in the rainbow jersey. Will he win today? Well, stay with us on Eurosport to see and find out. Not far to go. They're not putting the pressure on now. That gap, they can say that's it. Is this what the tail enders behind? They're going to come back?
No, I don't think so. I think well, it's 1 minute 50 now, I think, to those three chasers. So it's definitely between these 8. There's a little bit of jockeying around and looking at each other. They'll be trying to weigh up how well each other rider's looking. Is he fit, or is he tired? And Gustaf's still not quite back yet.
after that crash. Then those just switched on or just tuning into some of our later programs, this man came down in a bit of a crash that happened. Fletcher, I think, was slightly involved. Gustav also was in all sorts of trouble that occasion. He's trying to fight his way back to our leading group at the moment, which contains the man Tom Bonan, who his last victory was in the Grand Prix E3 just a few days ago, and Ballon, who's in this group as well, who also had a few problems further back. Ballon finished second on that particular occasion. For British viewers looking to see what happened to Roger Hammond, we haven't seen much of him. He started but didn't manage to make the cuts. Same thing with Bradley Wiggins out the frame, because the whole thing happened as we came across the Wallenberg and then the Trophy Allenberg. That was the one that caused the damage after they'd covered some 95 miles to go, so 95 k's to go after 163 kilometers race. 95 k's to go. This group you're seeing on the screen now are those that really caused the damage coming out of Allenberg, and they slimmed it down quite considerably, and the winner undoubtedly would come from this lot. The rest, I think, have said enough is enough as we get towards the back end. What has been a very, very fast race indeed. Our leading group here, and those who may be just catching up towards the back end, will tell you again who they are and the colours.
Well, we've got 7 riders in the leading group now. Tom Boonen wearing the World Championships jersey. We've got Leif Hoster, who's now on his own in this group from the Discovery. We've just lost Gusev, who's also in that group. He's been dropped. We've got Fletcher from Rabobank in the orange and blue. Fabian Cancellara, CSC in the black, white and red. Van Petegem, also in the white and orange. Alessandro Ballan of the familiar lamprey colours of pink and blue, and also the last rider in that leading group of 7 is Bernard Eisel of the Française de Jeu, the white jerseys.
So there we are then, the world champion looking for his 13th victory. Drifting back towards our cameras then, and we switched back into the lead camera. You can see the man at the back there with the white crash hat on, holding that camera there. He's picking up the pictures of the race, which you're seeing live back there, wherever you might be. So welcome again to our coverage. I'm David Duffield in this, my 17th Paris-Roubaix, and the action is coming as they come thick and fast. Alongside me then is Graham Jones, who won the Grand Prix de France as an amateur years ago, the Grand Prix National as well, 20th Tour de France, ridden this race 6 times, second head folk, knows what it's like to be here at the moment. Welcome then, Graham, towards the commentary box, but are you going to predict a winner from this far out?
I think if you're going to put me in the hot spot, it's got to be Tom Boonen, but you never know. I just can't see beyond him.
I can't either, because he's got I mean, the way he was riding, we've seen him so far, he always plays the opposition, doesn't he?
Yeah. Having said that, also, there's Roubaix track is a very, very tough track to win on. It's you've seen riders make mistakes on Roubaix track before and feel confident and look too strong, and it's a long way down that finishing straight.
He knows his way around it.
He does know his way around it. Yeah.
Well, he won the Tour of Flanders and the Paris-Roubaix last year, 2 on the trot. He went on to win the World Championship, and that was quite a remarkable performance. He's already started the season off in fine form with a massive number of wins, including his 12th victory in the Tour of Flanders, and now he's poised here to go on for his next victory, and that will be something quite unique to have the 2 back-to-backs, Tour of Flanders and the Paris-Roubaix. So he's undoubtedly bad. Everybody in Belgium right now will be cheering. The crowds on the side of the road, you see the Belgian flags there, the black, yellow and red flags, they're cheering on. But Fletcher again, why should he be driving hard? We've seen him struggling further back. The guy is unbelievable.
I can only assume that he's trying to just reduce this group down to less riders so he gets a higher sort of placing or top 3 again. But I certainly don't think he's doing it to try and get rid of Tom Boonen. But
well,
I think Tom will probably want to thin this group down a little bit to lessen his chances of getting caught out by anybody. I can see he might want to get rid of 2 or 3 more riders from this group.
I'm just trying to think who might be a sprint. You know, the dark horse. I mean, he's been blown off the back. This Gusev guy.
Yeah, he's gone now, though. He's quite a way behind now. I think he's lost contact completely.
Well, who's the guy from the coming through now?
That's Hoster.
It's Hoster. Oh, he's a bit of a threat, isn't he?
Oh no, it is Gusev. You're right. He did get back. Yeah.
Oh, can I stay in the programme?
You can stay in, but he was actually showed you an aerial helicopter shot before, and then he would look like he'd been distanced completely, but that leading group must have been.
I have a reputation of picking the wrong guy, but
messing around a little bit. So, well, Hoster will be glad to see a little bit of assistance there.
Oh, will he say, well, you go and I sit in the wheel? Will these two play the old one too?
Well, possibly, yeah, but you have to be strong enough to do that as well.
Well, 20 k's to go. I mean, this is the one you said could be the
no, it's the next one after this.
Oh, the next one, right.
Carrefour de l'Arbre.
Ah.
It's a long, long drag, and then you go across, you do a right and then a left across the main road, and then you've got a fast section.
But this is a bit of a long one, isn't it?
It is, yeah. This is the four-star category, so.
Oh, keep your fingers crossed nobody punctures, because if anybody punctures right now, I suppose it's curtains, isn't it?
Cancellara's going clear there at the moment.
There's another danger guy, isn't he? Because he won't want to go for a sprint.
Yeah, a lot of ex-riders, specialists have tipped this guy today.
Well, I've said to you that wonderful film Overcoming, which will be hitting the cinemas shortly, and is he going to put one on this little lot then? CSC will be rooting for this. I mean, well, you see there again, beyond Reese, I don't say he knows much about this sort of race, but CSC can always do something, you know, out of the bag, can't they?
Yeah, well, they've had people perform well in this before. Yeah. This is where it plays into the hands of Hoster. It's Boonan's now on his own. He's got to make the decision in a minute whether to go after these two or to attack. At the moment, he's not doesn't seem to be reacting and letting Van Petegem do the work. Hoster sitting comfortably in second place there.
That's interesting, isn't it? Look at this.
Yeah, because Boonan won't particularly want to end. The gap's going up there, and he particularly won't want to let Cancellara go. Pass. He's moved up. Fletcher and Boonan have made an effort.
But see, look, Hoster's getting a tow, isn't he?
Yeah, this is where the whole thing goes back to Boonan being on his own in this leading group for such a long time.
Will the team manager be calling the slots now? Is it up to riders who've been in the saddle all this length of time, thick end of 5.5 hours now? Is it up to them, or will still the team manager be saying...
The team manager will still be giving them information, but the riders now, once it's down to this sort of a group of 8 riders, they know where they are and what they've got to do and who's going well, who isn't going well.
Well, Gustave went through a bad patch and he's come back again, hasn't he? And his mate is just looking over his shoulder. Hoster is going for a ride here,
yeah,
in the blue Discovery Channel colours. So anybody back in America listening to this broadcast will say, "Way, let's go for it."
It's a very good move.
Well, there we are, 2 leaders at the moment, and we see just 17 kilometres to go. The main field is out of the frame right now, and they've got a 17-second lead onto section 4 of the cobbles going in toward the video of 7 sections it is, and Graham Jones is getting quite excited about this particular part of the race. Graham?
Yes, I just don't know this section so well. I've been down it so many times. It wasn't that far from where I used to live, and it really is a great atmosphere on this. A lot of people, this is like the last section where a really big decision's going to be made. But it's very hard. It's slightly uphill going up to the main road. So I expect if Boonan's going to make a move behind Cancellara, because Cancellara being such a good time trialist, once he gets a gap, he's going to take some catching. So I think this is where Boonan's going to have to make a move.
And Ballon also is got to do something about this. There's 3 good riders who want to win this race, and they're not going for 2nd and 3rd place, are they? And the gap now has got to 20 seconds, and they're all going like eyeballs out.
Yeah, exactly. This is where it's all on now. 20 kilometres, every man for himself now.
Cancellara driving up. Well, to my money, I never thought this would be his sort of course at all, but this brings out also unusual guy, but you have to be an ability, isn't it, here to ride this race at this speed? Something else which must be within you, something you can train. Well, you couldn't train for it, but it's a one-off, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And it's Ballon that's doing all the work behind him. Maybe Boonan isn't quite as strong as we thought.
He's doing nothing trying to close the gap, is he?
Not at the moment.
Woof. Well then.
The man who's in good position here is Hoster.
But they don't seem to be firing all cylinders. I mean, you're the expert, you know about riding.
I think they probably are, actually. I think maybe we're underestimating how strong Cancellara was when he went away.
You know,
in fact, he's opening a gap there on
the
Gustav.
chase group looked, I would say they were riding at 9/10. They didn't seem to be at 10/10 or 11/10. They looked like they were sitting there.
Yeah.
And look at him, he's gone.
He's gone now. I think that might be it.
Wow. Who would have tipped him to win today?
Well, quite a few people did tip Cancellara.
Did they?
Yeah.
Well, the bookies were
Yeah,
like that.
go to foot people like that, I think.
Did they? Go to things in for it.
Yeah.
Well, and Van Petegem has taken up the chase now, so that says something that this is the chase group behind. That's a roll call of honour for anybody who's anybody in single day classics right now. Fletcher is having difficulty getting back in again. He's had an up and down on the flat, an up and down run in the last hour or so. And look at this, the complete drama of the Paris-Roubaix is here on the screens, on Eurosport, live for those who are watching it wherever you are, and some of you may be picking up the website. Just soak up this as a man down the road, Cancellara, is heading, he hopes, for victory. The cacophony of sound over the years this race has built up to bring in massive spectators. It's a free show. You don't have to pay to be here. Just put some petrol in your tank of your car or get your bike and go out and watch it. And this man, Cancellara, right now is getting the plaudits of the crowd who've been waiting for so long for this race to come through. The biggest single-day bike race in the world, and Cancellara has thrown down the gauntlet.
Well, he said before the race that he's never been in better shape to be going for this one, and he actually referred to this race. He said, I've never been better, and I believe my results show that this year, and also that he's prepared in the very smallest detail about this race. He's trained over the course a lot, and he says it's special, and it's like no other race. It resembles a very long and difficult time trial. So he's actually going to be having to prove that now with this last, he's inside the last 20 kilometres, 15 kilometres to go now, and he's on his own, so let's see if he can time trial to the finish.
Last weekend in the big Tour of Flanders, he finished in 6th spot. He was just 1 minute 17 seconds down on Tom Boonen. Tom Boonen now is leading the chase, but I don't know, it doesn't look to me as Hoster takes off.
Now that is interesting, that Hoster, he's got to make his move. Obviously he gave Gustav his chance there to prepare, but he's obviously seen the danger, and Cancellara is moving away. Just to see if Boonen can respond.
But how would Gustav feel if his mate comes up and tows the rest with him? Surely he should stay there and let Gustav take second place.
Well, he will. Well, they want to win, don't they? They will see that it's all about winning this race, and the fact that Gustav has been dropped really means that Hoster's got to have a go.
Or will the team manager say, hang on, Gustav, Hoster's coming up, stay with him and do maybe 2Ks eyeballs out?
Yeah, the fact that he has been dropped by Cancellara, he may still be useful for Hoster. If you can take a breather, wait for Hoster, and then give a bit of help for Hoster, even if it's only over 2 or 3 kilometres. But Boonen doesn't look like he's got it. He's not been able to follow Hoster or Van Petegem here.
But Hoster hasn't got the gap he wanted, I don't think, has he? But Boonen's dropping back, I think.
Yes, he's lost the gap between Van Petegem and Hoster.
And Ballon's not making it out. And Fletcher, who's been yo-yoing off the front, off the back, is also grovelling a bit. Oops! And all the spectators are forming sort of a phalanx on both sides of the road. But from time to time, somebody steps out to take a picture. Let's hope that nobody steps out too far, like we had in the Alpe d'Huez once on that occasion when the man took out a picture and he got a close-up shot, and bash, bang, crash, down he went. But right now, Hoster looks like he's cracked it to break that chase group. But this is the man they've got to catch.
Yeah, it's definitely the man who's got his clock. It's 10 seconds at the moment, but that's just to Gustav, and it's 15 seconds to the other chasers. He's looking very strong now. I think he's going to take some catching.
Tom doesn't look too bright. The power isn't there, is it, at the moment?
Doesn't look like he doesn't sort of have that zip.
He's not going to give up, though. Nobody gives up at this stage.
Oh, he won't give up, because all it takes is a puncher in front by Cancellara. We saw that a few years ago. I can remember Henny Kuiper being alone in the lead and punching. He still went on to win, but he had a puncher when he was in the lead, so fortunately he had enough gap to stay away. Now, this is where Gustav might be able to help Hoster.
So what we do, sit in, have a breather, then come through?
If he can, yeah. If he's capable of it, I'm sure he will try.
And I think Ballon's gone down the road. He's dropped these two. Ballon in the pink and colours of the Lamprey team seems to have left Fletcher in the orange and Tom Bone in the World Championship jersey and gone off on his own. This is every man for himself right now, isn't it?
It is. He's looking very strong now.
Yeah, interesting. Cameras are picking up this bike he's got here, by the way. If you look down there, those seat stays going down are very thin indeed, down to the back axle. They've redesigned that bike quite a bit, the Cervelo people, and they've actually thinned down the seat stays quite a bit. I think some of these carbon fibre bikes have been a bit on the rigid and been a bit sore bouncing up and down, but they've certainly done some work on that. It looks like Cancellara now might well be taking that latest version of their bike into one of the most famous victories. He's not missing a beat, is he?
He's not, and we know he's a good time trialist as well from his previous performances in the Tour de France and stuff, so I think it's going to be very difficult for anybody to catch Cancellara now. And also we've gone past all the difficult sections of Pavé.
And the other thing is, if you can smell victory and you're feeling good, trying the man with the hammer doesn't get at you, then it gives you a bit of a more sort of spur, doesn't it, to go for it. God, he's looking strong, isn't he?
Yeah, 31 seconds, I think that's it.
Yeah, 11 Ks to go.
No.
Ballon's come back to Bona, who doesn't look like he's doing much work either. 31 seconds.
It just proves how difficult that double of Tour of Flanders and Paris-Roubaix is. He looked invincible last weekend and everybody thought he was going to walk today, and I couldn't see anybody beyond him, but we've been proved wrong.
Well, the way he's been riding as well, he's almost sort of other races like Denver, we just see him ride and then sit back and do this, just like he was sitting there able to turn the wick up and turn it down to suit himself, and not this time. Ks. Cancellara going to get his name on the roll call of honours. An amazing list of riders who've won this great race, dating back to 1896 when Josef Fischer won it, and then in 1897 Maurice Garin won it. In fact, he won it 2 years on the trot in those days. He went on, of course, to win the great Tour de France. Some great names like Albert Champion, and those who are listening back in America may know the name Champion. In fact, he went over to America, and the Champion Spark Plugs, he was the man that founded the Champion Spark Plugs company, went over there to America and did that one. He was the winner way back. He was actually a Frenchman, but he went to America way back, having won the great Paris-Roubaix way back in 1899. Over the years, the big roll call of honour of the riders that have won this particular race. Is this man going to get his name up there? It's been changing over the years. When the couples were there to begin with, they called it the Hell of the North years gone by, not because of the couples they've been over. You've been seeing live on Eurosport today, but the fact that he went through after the 14-18 war across some of the desolate countryside that had been almost bombed out of existence, with the shells and the battering that went on and the trenches and the conditions there. There was hardly... Oh no! John, gosh, I've never ever seen that before on the Paris-Roubaix. They've actually got a train coming.
I must admit, that's the first time that I've seen that in the finale of Paris-Roubaix. I saw it happen almost...
Oh, they stopped them! That's it, there's a train! That's it.
It's an incident of racing.
Oh, Fletcher on the left here, and then with Ballon, and then with... now, they'll time this one, won't they? And they'll presumably the back group will be allowed to start with the gap they've been delayed, won't they?
Well, no, they won't. If the barriers go up, it's just down as an incident of race. If they're actually caught, if the previous group would have caught them while they were waiting, then it would have set them off at a separate time. But the group that comes from behind now won't be held up, providing the barriers are open.
And the gap was about 2.5 minutes, so they shouldn't catch them.
Yeah, they'll be okay. What was interesting though, that the barriers were down when de Van Petegem got to it. They went round it because the train was still too far away. So in theory, Van Petegem's group should have stopped at those.
Will they penalise them?
Well, I don't know.
What an incident! Well, the first time I came on this race, I never seen like that. Cancellara still in the lead, unaware of the drama which happened behind him. 40 seconds back to the chase group with Van Petegem in there. 1:12 then to the other riders, and the main pack even further back, maybe 3 minutes. We've seen the barriers come down, a train has just gone through, and that's something I've not seen since the first commentary. Actually, Eurosport, when we came on in 1989, Phil Liggett was the commentator, and if you're listening in America, of course, you know Phil's name very well indeed. He was the commentator for Eurosport for the first 2 classics, and then I had the honour of taking over from Phil for the Paris-Roubaix in 1989, and done every one since then. And all that time, I've not seen anything like Graham Jones, who's ridden this race 6 times, as he's not seen anything like it before. 2 sections of the cobbles yet to go. It looks like now, I won't say that the train has caused the problem, which is going to make it certain he's going to win this one at the moment. Cancellara steaming away now, 41 seconds, but I think even without that, it looks he's going so well at the moment. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the only effect that train had on the race itself would be the fact whether Boonen's group came back to the Van Petegem Hoster group. I think that's the only thing that's going to be affected. Cancellara is going to win this race despite that.
But the massive crowd in the finishing area, you'll probably see it when the cameras go round to pick up the riders on that track, the cycle racing track around the outside of the football stadium. They also saw what you've been seeing. There's a massive big screen there, and they all oohed and ahed when they saw that delay, but they saw it up on the screen. They were waiting to see if this guy comes in all in one piece, doesn't go through the bad patch which happens to so many people. But just look at this way he's driving. This is a man possessed. He knows what he's going to do now, eh?
He knows he's on the way to victory here unless anything goes wrong. In fact, funnily enough, this is not a difficult section of pavé, because you can ride down the sides on a lot of it. This is where Kuiper, when he was alone in the lead, had a problem with the wheels a few years ago.
Henny Kuiper, riding those many great days for the old TI Rally team, was the first man, by the way. It's 30 years since Henny Kuiper won his first stage in the Tour de France when he's riding for TI Rally. I had the good fortune of being in the following car with Peter Poss. We ran like stink to the finishing line to see him win that first ever victory in the Tour de France for the great rally team. And in fact, this will be the 30th year since that, and I'm going to try and get him involved in Eurosport's coverage of the Tour de France this year to see if we can pick that up, because that was a very auspicious occasion all those years gone by. Victories, all of them are sweet, no doubt about it, but this one undoubtedly, I suppose, over all the races and everything happens throughout the year, where would any bike rider put this Paris-Roubaix in his sort of palmares?
Oh, it's got to be top of the list, hasn't it, as regards the one-day races? I think if you had to pick 3 one-day races that were the biggest, it would be probably Milan-San Remo, Paris-Roubaix and Flanders, and certain riders have put different ones in higher priority, but to me this is the king of the classics.
So this is the man, the king of the classics at the moment. It was his 12th victory last weekend. He knocked on in his last week. He knocked up his 12th victory, did Tom Boonen, and now he's well, unlucky 13. When's he going to crack the 13th?
Well, that's often the case, isn't it? We've got to correct that 13. Probably crack it in just some small race, and then he'll be off again.
Right. Well, Cancellara out there, no way unless he goes to that terrible hard patch. Time trialling in toward the finish, a man who's a great time trialist in the past over the years, and in fact he started out when he was riding with the Mapei Quick-Step team, winning the time trial in the Tour Roads, and as an Espoirs under 23 World Championship, he was there in second spot way back in the year 2000. As a junior, he was a world champion as well in 1998 at Valkenburg, so he certainly knows what it's like to ride against the watch. So here we are, all those many years, what, 6, 7 years since he was up there as one of the top juniors now, riding into what looks like a victory, and certainly he will look upon this, and I'm sure that as far as Bjorn Ries is concerned for CSC, I mean, Bjorn Ries, what hasn't his team won since he took over?
I don't know, he's done very well. Yeah, it's obviously got something, definitely.
But also the way he trains his team too. I mean, this guy's probably been out on that outward bound thing, hasn't he? Sort of puts them out there under pressure, like if you're going in the army, you go out and do these
team bonding, I think they call it. Yeah.
God, they really knock 7 bells out of them, don't they?
Yeah.
Dress them up in fatigues and the camouflage kit and make them, canoe here and do that and camp out and good and what else. I mean, nobody else does that to start the season.
As much as anything, it's a break from the normal routine. They do enough miles on the bike during the year. It's nice to do something different.
Well, he's doing a lot different here as far as he's concerned. Well, his time tries par excellence over the year, and again, Cervelo. I know that I say some of our commentators are going out into America. I think Cervelo actually are Canadian bike manufacturers, if memory serves me correct. Are they Canadian or American? They come to the other side of the pond, and ridden here by the rider Cancellara, who comes from Switzerland, by the way. So we've got to look back into the book of words to see who was the last Swiss rider of the Paris-Roubaix. Graham's getting out all the books. We've got so many bits of paper about the place here, trying to put bits of information for you, dear viewers back at home. But the chasing group here, Gustav Hosse and Van Petegem, look like they're riding for second and third place, and probably the most skilled rider in that one is that man just on your screen coming through here, Van Petegem. But he's going to get up against the old 1-2, because Discovery Channel, who without George Hincapie, who crashed further down the road when his handlebar stem broke, and we think he caused himself some physical damage as well. So they look like they could get a second or third or both places as well. And Graham's still looking back to his book of words here. Have we got the last...
There was one in 1923, Henri Suter, but I can't seem to find anybody else.
Here we are then. So Switzerland at the moment. I suppose the Swiss are best known for being sort of not exactly the most emotive of people. I should think right now that the Swiss are beginning to celebrate this one, because he's charging away here. It doesn't look like anybody's going to catch him. He hasn't missed a beat, has he? Look at this. The power is still there. He doesn't need to go this hard, does he?
Well, he's never give up. Make sure he's not over until you cross that line.
Well, this is the Paris-Roubaix, which viewers, or sorry, readers of Cycling Weekly magazine, they voted many. Oh, this is the other trouble, isn't it, as well, that ISIL now is Gaydon, that you can. I mean, this is a past winner of this race, but he popped out of a leading group about 6 or 7 riders and got the victory. That you still have problems, so no wonder he's pressing on. On the smooth roads here, just 4.5 kilometres to go, and in English money it's about 3 miles left to go. The viewers, readers of Cycling Weekly voted, in fact, the most exciting race overall of all the races in bicycle racing. They put the Giro d'Italia's 45% said yes, the Tour de France 24%, and the Paris-Roubaix was next in line at 9%. When it came to the most exciting single-day race, then the Paris-Roubaix came out on top of their selection at 48%, the Tour of Flanders 15%, and the rest were a long way out. So we've seen a very exciting race yet again on this, the Paris-Roubaix, the 104th running of this event. And so I'm sure the people will be writing their little letters up to Cycling Weekly and say, yes, this was exciting, as it has always been. And this man here is going to be worthy vector since way back
1923 is the last one I can find.
He'll be given the freedom of the city of Bern, or wherever it is he comes from.
Now he's there now. He's just looks like he's just going over the sort of summit. There's a small climb called the Côte de Hem, but it looks like he's gone over that. There's a descent towards the finish now.
Well, they're going to have to, I think, show part of that overcoming race, overcoming film, which is all about the CSC team. It's going to hit your cinemas near you, but this they need to add it on as a great performance of the CSC team riders. That's the stadium in the background where this man is heading to right now. The people who have been out on the course, those people that locally have come out onto side the road, they've been watching on their television sets. They've know now that this man is heading toward the victory. He has to, by the way, he's not finished yet with the cobbles. He switches over to a little 300 metres ceremonial bit of cobbles yet to come. When you were riding, Graham, I think did you go straight in the stadium?
Yeah, I never did that. It's just sort of like a token cobble section.
And it's not that bad either, is it? I've had a look at it. It's not that bad. And thank goodness the weather's quite reasonable today. So Van Petegem is telling these guys, because he's saying, get on, because it's 2 against 1.
I think it's exactly what he's saying, but he must be favourite for finishing second now, Van Petegem, which will be a hell of a ride for him.
After all these years, he's been up there, hasn't he? My goodness, this is certainly Van Petegem's speciality. I wonder how many years he's got left and what he's going to do in the future, because looking at Van Petegem, his second way back in the year 2000, and he's been up there as well. He won the race in 2003, and so right now then he's set in these, could be in with a place in the podium.
Yeah, certainly.
But not for Tom Bonan, but this man certainly, Cancellara, heading into, no doubt about it, well-earned victory. His form this year has been there.
The two Discovery riders are trying to attack
the old one too, isn't it? The old ones.
Let's see, Van Petegem will be ready for the next one now.
He knows the thing is about this, doesn't he?
I think so, yeah. I think he's been in this sort of position before. He'll have a bit more experience than the other two put together at the moment, Van Petegem. But Cancellara is giving everything right the way to the line.
Not the red, has he? There's a lot of noise on the side of the road. There has been all the way through toward the back end of this infamous race. I think the word is infamous rather than famous. 52.7 kilometres of cobbles in all they've had to go, and they all came in the last 98 kilometres, last 60 miles. This is the final section then, the last few hundred metres of it then, as he bashes over this particular spot. We've seen sprint finishes in the end. Most recently, I think we've always been seeing in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 riders come in, but this time we're going to see one lone rider with 1 kilometre to go coming in after these. He's had 258 kilometres of racing, just under 160 miles, and the whole of the stadium will erupt as Cancellara here comes in for CSC and for Switzerland into a well-deserved victory. It's going to be almost a lap of honour. That's it. That's where he's got to go round. The far side, you can see the stands there. That's where all the commentators are going to look down. We haven't got to look over the commentary positions to see who's going to win the sprint. There's no doubt about it. He comes round now. It's almost going to be a lap of honour for Cancellara as he goes through here. You can hear Daniel Manjas in the background exciting the crowd. They've seen the pictures up on the big screen just over the other side of the banking, and this man's lap of honour, Graham, this is, well, of all the races, this is the one, isn't it, eh?
Yeah, definitely. And also I think finishing in a stadium of velodrome just adds something to it, the fact that there's more people can see actually what's happening those last few hundred metres.
And there he is, savouring the moment, one of the greatest victories possibly in his whole career over the years that he's been there, winning so many events, but this one is long going to be one that he'll remember, I'm sure, and the crowd will do likewise. And he's now got time to wave to the crowd. What a brilliant performance as Cancellara rides around that last half a lap to victory in this, the 2006 Paris-Roubaix, the greatest bike race in the world, and a very, very quick time as well. Just over 6 hours and maybe 8 minutes as Cancellara savours that moment. .42 kilometres per hour. That's just over 25 miles an hour. No wonder he's elated. It's a sterling performance, a brilliant ride, and now he's got to put up with the usual scrum that happens as we're going to look down and see who's going to get second and third. One of these guys here is going to be out of the hot seat, out of the podium place.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's bike racing, I'm afraid, but Van Petegem's got to be favourite for this, I would think.
So you've got Van Petegem, he's in the red colour, Davito and Lotto, and I'm surprised they haven't started attacking these two.
Maybe they haven't got the legs to do it, I don't know.
Well, Gusov, Hoster at the back, Gusov at the front, Van Petegem wedged in between the two.
It's one of the fastest Paris-Roubaix for quite a long time, actually, at 42.2 kilometres per hour.
Don't think that they're beating the record of Peter Post years gone by when they came up mostly at the main roads, and now Van Petegem is going to throw the banking. He can swoop down, but he's got to be careful he doesn't chop the man below him. He's gone a bit too high for my money, actually. Oh, he's done it. He's used the banking to come down. He knows his way around here. He looks back, and Hoster tries to come at him, and he has to go again. I don't think he's got the legs. Hoster's got him.
Yeah.
Hoster second, Van Petegem third spot. Well, I think Van Petegem made a bit of a fist at it, but it wasn't good enough.
Interesting double though for Hoster, second in Roubaix Halfland. It's a while since that's been done.
Well, you're right.
Hey, everybody can get something. Just give him a few minutes, man.
Sunderland there.
Here we go. Well, the man who was expecting to come round like this, but at the lead, hasn't quite made it this time round. He won't be up there on the podium this time, but he's going to give it all he's got. And of course, many Belgians have made the trip because we're quite close to the Belgian border in the finish here. So the Belgians have come, but well, they'll be happy with the fact that this guy is still winning races left, right, and centre, and there's still a long, long way to go in this season. Whoops, the scrum is here. This is unbelievable. This is this race, isn't it, Graham?
It is, yeah. Yeah. created.
We don't see a spectacle like this, do we?
It used to be a lot worse than this in the track centre, but since they've actually corridored bits off now, so you can't have so much a scrum down, but it still looks like there is one there.
You're right, because normally they get the heavy gang in and make sure the poor guy that wins doesn't get this sort of hassle, but it has been worse on some occasions. In the old days it was even worse, but even now this is bad enough.
Scott Sunderland there with the glasses on.
Oh, so it is, yes, yeah. He'll be pleased with that as well, won't he?
Definitely, yeah.
Everybody in CSC, my goodness. Whew, so that's it. Imagine, after all the cobbles we've seen, bashing their way over that little lot, you end up on this smooth track, very famous finishing area from the end of this remarkable race. No doubt about it. ISIL coming in here, I think it's... Oh no, it's Gaydon, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, dear.
Yeah, I think they're all going to be coming in dribs and drabs now over a few minutes.
Not only, interesting, just spotted he's got these centrifugal brakes on, because there's no mud today, so the old brakes that he's using didn't come into good effect. But there have been times when there's been so much mud coming up into the front wheels and up underneath the front forks, and also down about the back end of the bicycle, that they've fitted those special brakes like the mountain bikers use. But no doubt about this time that this guy here, well, he can well point at himself. You've cracked it, mate. That's it. I suppose of all the races as well, if you win the Tour de France, you're made for life. If you win the Paris-Roubaix, because it's one of those big events you can live off forever, isn't it, almost?
Yeah, we certainly live off it for a few years with Pro Tour points and things nowadays, so...
Well, our sorrow goes out to people like Roger Hammond, who fell on his knee in the Tour of Flanders last Sunday and therefore couldn't ride. Well, he rode today, but couldn't ride with his usual vim and vigour. And to Magnus Backstedt, who was the first Swede rider to win this one a couple of years ago. He also has been injured and had to comment, or he's been on Eurosport's Swedish commentary point, giving his insight into the race. So he's another ex-victor who didn't ride today for various reasons, or top three places as Roger was, but I'm sure those people watching it, wherever you might be, will agree with me. We've seen yet another interesting Paris-Roubaix, and again he would not give up without a fight as Tom Bonan came in. And I wonder if we're going to get this interview on our screen.
C'est beaucoup de jours de ce moment. Jeudi du jour, je dois arriver au sol. Je sais, pour arriver dans une sprint, c'était dur.
On disait que Tom Bonan est...
Bon travail des équipes, bon travail de moi, j'ai travaillé beaucoup avec la tête. C'est encore pas possible, je pense.
Well, he's just saying that how pleased he is that he's won, and he knew he had to win alone. He didn't really want to have to rely on a sprint.
C'est merveilleux, mais on vient de voir Tom Bonan, il est extrêmement déçu.
Est-ce que
vous avez senti un moment
also for his help today?
Lui qui était le super archi favori.
He certainly didn't know when the last Swiss winner of Paris-Roubaix was.
Il est sur forme. J'ai dit, je dois travailler avec la tête.
He'd already seen that Boonen wasn't so strong. And he realised that he had to be clever, really be clever and think about what he had to do. And but he knew that it was going to be his time today.
And there is savouring that moment. Now he can live off that for years to come. And look at the freedom of the whole of Switzerland, by the way, but it says all those many years gone by that Graham picked out where the last Swiss rider was. But that really, I think, for all the hard work he's put in over the years as a bike rider, that's very... Anybody wins this race, I say, it's a well-justified victory, because just actually lasted distance is something, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you can't hide in the bunch and sprint in the last 200 metres in this one, can you?
And what was it like when you finally made it to the finish?
Just relief, really. Just wanted to get to the shower and get home.
Well, there we are. He's got relief as well, Cancellara. It's all over and done with, and he's got that victory on his palmares. He's got to, of course, get up there and get that big rock, because of the big lump of stone yet to hold up there.
Big group coming in now around the track.
There we are, we've got them coming through and past the finishing line and past all the various television cameras on the left-hand side. That's where all the commentators are, and you can see the big trucks behind that commentary points. Those are the ones transmitting all the pictures which you've been seeing. And there on the right-hand side, there's the buildings where there's going to be a big celebration later on. They all troop in there, and the good people of Roubaix and La Redoute, they turn in there and have a big, great big party time. It's party time, believe you me. Some people, of course, have got to dash off to where they're going next of all, but in those buildings, almost in the centre, the other side of the track, that's where party time will be later on. And Cancellara, with the other second and third riders on it, will be in there celebrating later on before they head off and back in. But certainly we've got more action coming up in this coming week on Eurosport. If we get cut off rather quickly, as you're watching the moment when this man went away, let me put a quick plug in for the fact that we'll be under different circumstances in this coming week, because we're going to have the track World Championships from the big track in down there in Bordeaux. So Bordeaux will be the place where they'll be on much smoother road. Not that track you're seeing on your pictures here. It's an indoor track as this man ploughs in towards the finish with 10 k's to go, knowing what he had to do. The laps of honour, starting on Wednesday, will be on the smooth board track, and we hope you'll join Eurosport's coverage. We're going to be in the evenings, by the way, because we're going to be having coverage on the Thursday evening and the Friday evening, and then on the Saturday and Sunday much more. Of course, the Brits will be there. We're looking for some turnout there amongst the medals. So this man here for Switzerland takes the victory, and for CSC in the Paris-Roubaix. Hope you'll join us, by the way, if we get cut off rather shortly. As I say, in the back end, my job next is to go all the way down to Roubaix. I hope you join me on that occasion. David Harmon, I think, I think Mike Smith is doing the Amstel Gold on Sunday. David Harmon will be back for the Flèche Wallonne, which is be on Wednesday week, and then on 2 weeks from today, it'll be the Les Bastogne-Liège with Sean Kelly, who's, I say, out of action because of the dreaded fluid he's had, but I've been very happy to have alongside me Graham Jones, who is saving the moment, and undoubtedly as CSC, I mean, this team it's amazing, isn't it, how it's sort of suddenly come good, and whatever they do, they seem to turn to gold.
Yeah, very well organised team, very professional, and always well turned out. Good PR. The whole setup is first class.
Quick thought about what I call the professionalism and the way in which the teams are now. It seems to have changed over the years, doesn't it?
Oh, big time, yeah. I mean, probably last 10 years.
So it's all different, and now we're getting an interview in Italian as well. He says, well, I'm so happy now with winning here, is very amazing. And it's something I've always wanted to do. He said in the last few years it hasn't been all okay, but this year I was allowed to just do my race. And Eric Day was perfect, so
all'Arenberg hai aspettato il Carrefour de l'Arbre, avevi capito che eri il più forte di questo gruppo?
Sì, ho visto tante volte gli altri erano al gancio.
He's just asking a question, was did you know you were the strongest? It took a long time for you to attack. He said, no, I knew that Tom Bono wasn't in very good shape, so I knew I had to attack. Well, there we are. So, again, I suppose if you live in Switzerland, you have to speak so many different languages as well. There I was just speaking in Italian. We've had him in French. I suspect, I haven't spoken to the guy. One of the few I haven't spoken to is where he speaks English. They always do as they come from Switzerland. He's multilinguist. Of course, the CSC team is, I won't say it's full of Danish riders, but I think English is the language of the CS team.
I think it is, and there's a few teams going down that way. I remember reading something that T-Mobile and one or two others have started making riders have lessons in the winter to occupy their time and sort of, well, you need a universal language really that to run these teams. You can't have some people speaking German, some people speaking French, so quite a few are adopting that English direction.
Well, there we are. French, they will not be very happy with that, by the way, because French has been the universal language of cycling, and the UCI, the Unicycliste Internationale, who govern the sport, are they actually based in Switzerland as well? And Pat McQuaid is the #1 guy out there at the moment, so he comes all the way from Ireland as well, Pat, so he has to speak fluent French. You have to speak French if you're a UCI delegate or if you're up on the top brass level, but certainly this man, multi-linguist, one thing he can say well done in any language, particularly winner today. So for the CSC rider, who, by the way, they're an American company to do with computers. And I'll probably be able to dig out all that's going on here. There was a time when they nearly backed out of the sport. I seem to remember that Bjorn Ries managed to get some more money out of them and one or two other people to keep the team going. It nearly folded.
Yeah, they were having, I remember a period where they were riding in just plain shorts in the anticipation of getting a co-sponsor. So no, they've done really well to stick at it, and quite rightly are one of the top teams now.
And there's also, it's not just the money that comes down, it's team sort of ambience, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
And you see that here?
You see that there, yeah, they're all really pleased that he's won it. So. Could be the team of the year, no doubt. Obviously, we've seen Quick Step and that sort of side dominate the one-day classics in early season, but maybe CSC could be the things to come.
Just had a quick look at Jean-Marie Leblanc in the background as well before more interviews come on. Jean-Marie is backing out at the end of this year. He's still retained as sort of consultant at the top level with the Société Tour de France, and in fact there's an article about him in one of the monthly cycling magazines that I hope you link to if you're watching this for the first time, our coverage, and want to know more about it. There are monthly cycling magazines on sale. As there, Bernardino on the left-hand side shepherds the winner today up onto the rostrum. So Cancellara saving his man. He's going to get this. Here it comes. No, it's not there yet. He's going to get this piece of cobblestone. You can hear the background. Daniel Manjas announcing the victory today. That's it. There's his cobblestone. Actually, Andrew Taffy, when he won the race, he built a house and he put it into the house. Built it in. And when they discovered, there it goes, that's the big cobblestone. But you have to have a something great mantelpiece to put it on, don't you, eh?
Yeah, I think Taffy did the best, put it in his driveway or something, didn't he?
No, on the house. He built it. And when they heard he built it into the house, they gave him another one. So he's probably the only one who got two pieces of cobblestone for the same victory. There it is. Of all the awards that are given to sportsmen across all sports, I don't think I know anyone that can match that, eh?
No, a trophy is probably so heavy as well, quite small but heavy.
It doesn't cost much, does it, either? Bit of a plinth, and somebody goes down the road and digs one out. No, I think they get it specially made.
Yeah, the plinth's probably worth more than the cobblestone, I would think.
But the one thing about winning this race, though, he will, when he's saving this moment later on, it isn't just the money or the potties at the end of it all. It's just one of those things you can tell your grandkids about, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Félicitations à celui qui a bien mérité l'ovation du public de Roubaix, Fabian Cancellara, vainqueur de l'épreuve.
Thank goodness it's fine. We've had some pretty grotty conditions in the past, haven't we?
Yeah, well, they did forecast showers, but they've held off, so we've had a nice dry race. Photographers won't be pleased. The photographers like a nice muddy one for their shots. The bit sadistic like that.
Yes, well, we've had some very good shots on Eurosport. And all the times I've worked on this race, it seems to be the longest time we've had to close the programme down because we're well ahead of schedule. Normally it's bang, bang, thank you, ma'am, and the thing is over and done with before we have a chance to get the victor up on the rostrum at the end of it all. But we can savour the moment here in fact, we don't often get it on Eurosport, chance to have all the VIPs gathering up there. And we seem to have lost second and third at the moment.
Yeah, they'll probably do that, and they're probably concentrating on the winner, and they'll do the all first, second and third, and I think they do the Pro Tour podium as well, don't they?
Oh, of course, the Pro Tour, yes. You see, he's shaking his head. I mean, the amazing thing about that I've watched with cycle races is it doesn't take him long to recover either, does he? Imagine he's been out there over 6 hours, he's covered 160 miles in 6 and a bit hours, and he looks as fresh as a daisy.
Yeah, he probably recover a little bit better when you win, though, that's another thing.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, you're quite right. Those of us who have never, well, I said, have been always off the back, you feel the pain and suffering. And there we are, there's our still photographers getting another picture for the record books. Well, that's the moment, and we've got to get the second and third up again. A lovely shot back of our stadium. You can imagine what it was like all those years gone by when this race first started. Certainly things like problems with the level crossing has been there in all sports on flatter territory over the years, but I've not seen anything like this before as they were held up. But it didn't in the end affect 1, 2 and 3, I don't think. But must have been disappointing there for the man number 1 on his back, winner last year, to be held up on this occasion. Ballon there in the pink and blue being not very happy, and Flescher, who have yo-yoed throughout the whole of the race, also taking a few moments to recover. Going back then into the past, and you're looking at this lovely track here, it was very much to promote this track that they had this first Paris-Roubaix all those many years gone by. And I've got a marvellous book here, which I've got in my hand here now, but Pascal Sergent, that traced all the riders that took part in this great Paris-Roubaix over the years to promote the track. And I said to you earlier on, Albert Champion, who won the Paris-Roubaix, went on to be the manufacturer of those, or chap who designed and manufactured the Champion spark plugs, with some lovely old pictures of riders who used to ride on single-speed gears with great fat tyres, laid-back angles, and pictures of them there with moustaches and so on around about. Lovely old black and white pictures of them with their bowler hats. We've just seen everybody swarming around to get a chance to talk to the victor today. You can imagine in the old days it was very much a posh sport for the spectators, and the top brass that put money in towards the race would come up with their bowler hats and so on. It was really, those days in the early part of this sport, it was very much the one which they did to promote the track, as Graham is spotting
Freddie Martins.
Yes, oh, so he is. And there Tom Bonan looks like he's still leading on the Pro Tour. Just waiting for the announcement in the background. You can probably hear the Daniel Manjas saying that here goes Tom Bonan, who is still leading on the Pro Tour for the points he's been awarded so far. He's still got that white jersey, which if they allowed him this time to ride, well, he's leading on the Pro Tour, to wear his World Championship rainbow bands. He did have the Pro Tour, this new Pro Tour series, which, well, in my opinion, I know, Graham, I think the jury's still out on this Pro Tour. You know, there's so many events in it which, with all due respects, like the Eneco Tour, didn't exist until the Pro Tour came along. Yes, we've had the single-day classics in the past, part of one competition, but I can't understand the Pro Tour, and I'm just wondering, you know, when they're going to sort it out.
No, I really don't know. I'm still out on that as well, I think, of whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I would think the next year or two will decide.
Well, the Pro Tour has some 27 events, I think it is, that are part of the Pro Tour. A mixture of the Tour de France, the Tour of Italy, and the Tour of Spain, and the major one-day classics as well, all mixed up in there. And so, well, he will certainly move himself up a little bit into the Pro Tour, because single-day classics, they get 50 points for this one, but when you get the Tour de France, you get 100 points for the winner, and you get points for the stage race. But imagine, even a stage race in the Tour de France only gets 3 points, and 3, 2 and 1 for the first 3, and the same thing with the Tour of Italy. And I think the points classifications are a bit of a mismatch anyway. But anyway, that's something that the governing body have decided that they're going to have, and they'll probably give me a sharp cuff around the ear for me saying, well, I still think the jury's out. It is for like to, and I think most of the rest of the sport, except the one thing it has done, Graham, is it's welded together these top 20 teams now, hasn't it? And we're getting what I call much more professional presentation of the teams, and they have to ride all these Pro Tour races.
I mean, I think the idea of it is right, and I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to put the professional cycle racing on another level, trying to get it up there with sort of like the Formula 1 Grand Prix and Champions League, that type of thing. But I think it was possibly put in my opinion, was probably put into action too soon, too quickly from the initial idea, and I think that's been part of the problems. It wasn't really thought out properly, and I think it's going to take 2, 3, 4 years before it settles down.
But you must be very much involved with the Tour of Britain, upset when someone like the Eneco Tour, which didn't exist, is put in the Pro Tour.
Yeah, exactly. But again, there's a whole logistics thing that goes along with the Pro Tour. We at the moment couldn't put a Pro Tour event on because of the number of riders that you'd require, and also had another complete step up in budget to be able to have a Pro Tour, but that's the sort of thing that we would like to aspire to. And the other thing is that the Pro Tour is actually set in stone anyway for 4 years. All the events, nothing can come into likewise the teams, nothing can come into it, and the events also can't come into it until that first initial period's up.
Well, this race, 104 years, the Tour of Britain now, what is the third year for it?
Third year since the resurrection.
Yes, on resurrection. It has been around an awful long time, because it used to be the old milk race for, what, 30-odd years? Did you ride the milk race?
Yeah, we've always had various forms, hasn't it? Milk race, Pro Tour, Kellogg's Tour, so different types of, different versions, but it's been around since the 50s, hasn't it?
And this guy here, he won a stage in the Tour of Britain, didn't he?
Yeah, into Nottingham.
Yeah. Nottingham, famous headquarters, the great rally bicycle company, who I said this year, with 30th year since the rally rider, Kuiper won a stage in the Tour de France, so that was some time ago. But there we are, over and done with as far as we're concerned, the Paris-Roubaix, and long will the jury be out sorting the Pro Tour out. We wish it the best of luck. Come on then, what you're saying here?
Well, we're looking at some information that's just come up, and that I did mention at the time that Van Petegem and Hoster and Gusev were not supposed to, once the barriers have come down, they're not supposed to have crossed, and from what we're getting in news that they've been disqualified. That's those 3 riders that we're chasing, so that would make Tom Boonen second and Ballon third. We'll just wait for 100% confirmation of that, but that's what I'm hearing at the moment.
Big drama then, as you're looking down at the track centre here. The jury's still out, I'd say, on the Pro Tour, but as we're looking back at some of the roads that they came across, and those riders, it looks then that, according to information we're getting, and we'll wait for confirmation of that, after battling their way through 160 miles, the riders that came in there for battling for the second, third and fourth places, Hoster, Van Petegem and Gusev, looks like they've been disqualified for not waiting at that level train crossing. We saw it live on Eurosport. You watched this great race as they battered through here the Arenberg Forest, but who could have thought the drama was at the end, not only when Cancellara went away to win this great race, but some of the riders you see here, when they went through that level crossing gate when they should not have done, it looks like they're out of the frame. Hoster, Van Petegem and Gusev, which means that if that's so, these riders who battle over the cobbles have now got a different result. Still Cancellara the victor, and Tom Boonen second now at 1 minute 51 seconds. Alexander Ballon of the Lampre Fontedel team is in third spot, and back then fourth, then Flescher, fifth Eisel, sixth Weisserman, seventh Guden, eighth Rosems. That's the unofficial finish of a most spectacular race. My thanks then to Graham Jones for joining me at the commentary point on this great race, and thanks to great viewers out there who have been watching this event today. Thanks for supporting Eurosport. Look forward to your company in this coming week in the big track at Roubaix, an indoor track when those riders from Great Britain will be battling it out against the best in the world. Thanks for your company yet again, and look forward to being with you this coming week. So for me, David Duffield, and of course alongside me, Graham Jones, we say to you, thanks very much indeed for what's been a great day.